Now will be an opportunity for silent prayer or meditation. Please be seated. Order members, does any member wish to give notice of a motion? Okay, it's clear we don't have a notice of a motion. Oh, it's only one. It's Honorable Mlambo. Honorable Mlambo?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. I hereby move on behalf of the African National Congress that in the next sitting, the Council debates the reckless and irresponsible action of the City of Cape Town that has led to the city being instructed to pay 300,000 to Anele Amarais by the Bargaining Council. Ms. Marais was not even included during the shortlist for interviews for the position of Chief of Metropolis, though she was the most suitable candidate, who was also Deputy Chief of Metropolis with more time than the 7 years experience required at senior management level. The whole process was a window dressing because the appointment of Mr. Robert was the only candidate that was interviewed out of 41 applicants, and the Executive Director of Safety and Security, who was responsible for this mess, must be charged and be personally accountable for the money that must be paid to Ms. Marais and not the taxpayers. I so move. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Lund?
On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby move that this House debates marriage equality and the obstacles which can still be addressed to protect all partners. Since 1994, several amendments have been made, such as the Recognition of Customary Marriage Act 98 and the Civil Unions Act 2006, to better protect citizens. However, there are still those vulnerable in marriages and unions that we as legislators should look after. I so move.
Thank you. Honorable Hutton? No, thank you. Does any member wish to move a motion without notice? Thank you. Honorable Kimbi?
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Chair. I here move without notice that the Council notes the perennial cash in transit hits that endanger lives of the security officers on guard and road users at large. Further notes that the mastermind behind these cash in transit hits are seemingly much trained people that seems to have accreditation to carry firearms, which makes them more dangerous to the community. And therefore, there must be much pontification about how we should reduce our dependence on cash by going electronic or using mobile payment technology. I so move, Chair.
Is there any objection to the motion? The motion is agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Hutton?
Thank you, Honourable Chair. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby wish to move without notice that this Council notes the excellent performances of South African sport during the past weekend, where the Blitzbokke not only won the final 7 series match against England in Paris, but successfully defended their World Rugby Sevens title for the 2nd consecutive year. B, the Rugby Springboks, under the leadership of Siya Kolisi, defeated England on Saturday in a grueling match in Johannesburg with 42-39 after trailing 24-3. The Proteas women cricket team defeated England with a 7-wicket win at Worcester, England. 2 South Africans, Wangmusa Mtembu and Anne Ashworth, respectively won the Comrades Marathon in the male and female categories on Sunday. And further notes these admirable performances and congratulate our athletes for their inspiring contribution not only to our sport community but also to South Africa as a nation. I so move.
Is there any objection to the motion? The motion is agreed to in terms of section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Faber.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby wish to move a motion without notice that the Council notes a sludge watering plant constructed in Kimberley 2 years ago at the cost of 38 million has become a white elephant as it is currently not being used. Raw sewage is flowing into the streets and into people's yards not far from this plant. The plant's metal door is locked and the whereabouts of the keys are even unknown to the Salt Plaatje municipality. Salt Plaatje spokesperson Mr. Salumati claims this plant was built as a refurbishment of the sewage works and that this new plant manager position will now be advertised. Therefore, this House requests that the Salt Plaatje municipality urgently appoints a person with the required skills to operate this plant. Communities have the right to stay in clean and healthy environments and prevent the outbreak of diseases. I so move.
Chairperson, thank you for the opportunity. Chairperson, on behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby wish to move without notice that this Council notes South Africa's GDP has shrunk by 2.2% between January and March 2018, compared to the previous quarter. The mining sector alone declined by 9.9%. This will further now fuel job losses and poverty amongst the most vulnerable South Africans. The steep rise in fuel prices this month will further fuel inflation, causing food prices to now rise. The losses in employment opportunities will have a ripple effect on our fiscus, leading to further shortfalls in revenue income, contributing now to even further poverty. Chairperson, we believe that this is a total contradiction of what former President Mandela stood for in terms of his values and principles. Come 2019, Chairperson, the voters will punish the ANC at the voting polls for their greed and, of course, uncaring policies that is so proven over the last few years. I thank you.
In light of the objection, the motion may not be proceeded with. The motion without notice will now become notice of a motion. Order, members. Honorable Dlamini.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. On behalf of the African National Congress, the People's Movement, I hereby move without notice that the Council notes with utmost contempt and disdain the senseless attack and robbery of 2 volunteer medical support staff in Dunoon, just outside Cape Town on Saturday, 9 June 2018. Further notes that the 2 medical volunteers who are part of the Community Medics, which is a public benefit organization that is dedicated to bringing free medical assistance in time of emergency to those in need, especially the poor and those without medical aid in the township and informal settlement, were robbed of their belongings, including 2 cell phones and their GPS that is used to locate distress calls. Further notes that over 40 attacks on medical support staff, such as ambulances crew, have been reported in the Cape Town area since January 2018. Take this opportunity to condemn, in the harshest possible term, this senseless attack on people who are dedicated their lives to serve the lives of the people in Cape Town. Calls on the people of Danone and many parts of Cape Town area to work with the police in ensuring that people who are targeting defenseless emergency medical support staff, such as ambulances and doctors, are brought to book to face the full mighty
Honorable
of
Dlamini,
the law. I
conclude.
so move.
Is there any objection to the motion? Honorable Julius?
Chairperson, and I'm rising on a point of order. You heard that the time was up, and that motion becomes a notice of a motion automatically when the time is up. Please refer to the rules and make the right ruling, because you actually waited for Honorable Dlamini to complete all a sentence. But normally when we do it, you say stop and you follow the rules. Please follow the rules when it comes to Honorable Dlamini. Thank you.
Is there any objection to the motion?
Yes.
In light of the objection, the motion may not be proceeded with. The motion without notice will now become notice of a motion. Honorable Matime?
House Chair, thank you very much for this opportunity. On behalf of the African National Congress Chair, I hereby move without notice that the Council, 1, notes with utmost concern another incident where 2 pit bull terriers savagely attacked and mauled a 65-year-old pensioner to death in Uotsor during the weekend. 2, further notes that the Philippus Dry was working in the garden of his younger sister's house when his neighbor's dogs attacked and mauled him to death. And 3, take this opportunity to reiterate its call to the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries, Honorable Mr. Ezokwana, and the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Dr. Zweli Lawrence Mkize, to work with the various municipalities to develop pit bull breed specific legislation to regulate the possession, restrictions, and conditions of ownership of pit bulls as domesticated animals. I so move, Chairperson.
Is there any objection to the motion? The motion is agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Kaula?
Ngiyathokoza sihlalo hloniphekile. On behalf of Inkatha Freedom Party, I move a motion without notice that, noting that the Comrades Marathon was held on Sunday, 10 June 2018, as a town run from Pietermaritzburg to Durban in the Kingdom of KwaZulu-Natal. Further noting that Parliament of the Republic of South Africa had sent a team of athletes to the 2018 Comrades Marathon, comprising of both members of Parliament and the staff of Parliament. Also noting that amongst the members of Parliament, this team of athletes, there were also honorable members of the NCOP who also ran and finished the race, the Honorable Boyinkotlo Ntebe and the Honorable Chris Hatting. This House resolves This House resolves to congratulate Bongmusa Mthembu from Bulwer in KwaZulu-Natal, who won the males race and was already the defending champion, and to congratulate Anne Ashworth, who won the female race. The House notes that both Bongmusa Mthembu and Anne Ashworth are South Africans. The House also congratulates the members of Parliament and all the staff of Parliament who also participated. Lastly, the House congratulates all the Comrades Marathon 2018 athletes, organizers, sponsors, supporters, and everybody else who participated for the race, this prestigious event to be a success. I thank you, Chair.
Is there any objection to the motion? The motion is agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Singh?
Thank you, Chairperson. I hereby move without notice that this Council notes the utmost concern, the constant increase in fuel prices, including the increase in fuel levies, which result in our people paying the higher fuel price for fuel and an increase in costs related to transport and food prices, especially for those who rely mostly on public transport. Further notes that road users in general are already under enormous financial strain. A bigger increase in fuel levy will certainly place an even greater burden on them, and therefore calls on the government to look at an urgent intervention reducing
Honorable Singh,
such hikes.
let me take the point of order. Honorable Julius?
Thank you, House Chair. Sorry for the interruption, but the motion was done by Honorable Isaac. Thank you.
Honorable Singh?
Chair, it's not the same.
Eh? Honorable Singh? Can you continue?
Yeah. Therefore, calls on the government to look at an urgent intervention reducing such hikes. Much should be done with the interest of all road users in mind.
Honorable Singh, I'm afraid
I
Honorable
so move.
Julius is correct. Honorable Chetty?
Thank you, Slalo. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby wish to move without notice that this Council condemns the murders recently in KwaZulu-Natal of the innocent lives lost due to the increase in crime and lack of adequate police presence. Chatsworth in KwaZulu-Natal has been under siege by criminal elements who have targeted innocent, law-abiding civilians. The police station currently needs to protect a community of over 350,000 residents. Chatsworth is the 4th worst KwaZulu-Natal precinct for drugs-related crime and the 5th worst for carjacking. We therefore call upon the Minister of Police, Becky Taylor, to ensure the following interventions: deploying a well-resourced anti-hijack unit, deploying an additional 100 police officers for visible policing and crime prevention, increasing crime intelligence officers to prevent hijackings in the community, opening a satellite station in Shallcross, and re-establishing the narcotics unit. We convey our condolences to the murdered victims' families in KwaZulu-Natal for the losses. I so move.
Is there any objection to the motion? The motion is agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Mtetwa?
Thank you, Chair. On behalf of the African National Congress, I hereby move without notice that the Council note with utmost concern the senseless, horrific shooting of a 30-year-old Golden Arrow bus driver who was attacked on Thursday at the bus company Philip Depot. Further note that several gun ambushed the unidentified driver just after 7:30 p.m. at the end of his shift at the bus depot in Chepsford Road, next to the Chepsford informal settlement, fired 15 bullets, of which 6 hit the driver. Take this opportunity to condemn this savage conduct of the attackers and their reckless disregard of human life. Call on the company to strengthen security for bus drivers, especially in the Philip Depot, and wish the bus driver a speedy recovery. I so move.
Is there any objection to the motion? The motion is agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Mangete?
Thank you, Chairperson. On behalf of the African National Congress, I hereby move without notice that Council one notes with utmost pride the successful hosting of the 93rd edition of Comrades Marathon in KwaZulu-Natal last weekend, and the astonishing performance of the third-time winner.
Honorable Mangete, honorable members, let us listen. It's the one that was presented by Honorable Kaul.
But there is detail that he did not cover, Chairperson.
Let's listen, honorable members. Honorable Julius. Honorable Julius, your turn now. You are on the list. Oh, okay. Thank you. Honorable Makuwe.
Thank you, Chairperson. I hereby move without notice that the Council notes with utmost concern and apprehension the intention to auction 2 pieces of land that are regarded as sacred at the historic Tanabaru Cemetery at the top of Long Market Street in the Bukap in the Cape Town CBD, which is the first officially recognized Muslim cemetery in South Africa and historical scene of the first anti-colonial uprising by the Muslim community in the Cape of Good Hope. Further notes that the historical significance of the Tanabaru Cemetery dates as far back as 7th of January 1886, when the Muslim community in the Cape revolted against the closure of the Tanabaru Cemetery by colonial authorities by burying a child in the cemetery, and that over 3,000 Muslims in the Cape of Good Hope followed the funeral procession in defiance of the colonizers, with the police keeping a close watch on the procession. Further notes that in an attempt to preserve the heritage of the Tanabaru uprising and its sacred burial site, a committee for the preservation of the Tanabaru was formed in the early 1980s, and in 1998 the Tanabaru Trust was formed with the sole intention of preserving the Tanabaru Cemetery as a significant part of the heritage of Cape Town's Muslim community, and therefore calls on the Minister of Arts and Culture, Mr. Enin Tetwa, the Western Cape Minister of Cultural and Sports, Honorable Mares, the Mayor of the City of Cape Town, Councillor Patricia de Lille, and the National Heritage
Honorable
Council.
Makuwe.
Can I
Honorable
finish?
Makuwe. Your time has expired. Your motion will now become notice of a motion and will be printed in the full next order paper. Honorable Engelbrecht.
Chairperson, thank you. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby wish to move a motion without notice that this council congratulates the DA-led municipality of Tshwane for passing the 2018-19 budget, which allocates 137 million towards EPWP job initiatives, 551 million upgrades, roads and building housing units in informal settlements of Folong, Kopanong, Rama City, Easterus, Mabupane, Refilwe, Gatseba, Gudubi, and Zitubeni. 15.3 million for ECD development, 25.5 million for sport, recreation, and upgrading of the Refilwe and Caledonian stadiums, 364 million for healthcare, with 4 million to upgrade clinics and 40.3 million for drugs and substance abuse programs. The DA local governments lead the way in providing quality services to all their residents and making sure that resources go to those who need them most. I so move.
Is there any objection to the motion? In light of the objection, the motion may not be proceeded with. The motion without notice will now become notice of a motion. Honorable Makwebo.
Ngwesihlalo ndiyabulela, cela ke sizole, sizofunda umphanga. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby wish to move without notice that this council knows that on Thursday evening last week, 7th of June of the instant, the founder of the Rising Sun Daycare Center in Duncan Village in the Eastern Cape, Ms. Nozim Mswi, 49, passed away after struggling with diabetes. Her passing has left a void in the lives of many in the Eastern Cape that were lucky enough to be part of her life and will be sorely missed. This council conveys its deepest condolences to her family and the community of Duncan Village for their loss and support during this difficult time. I so move.
Is there any objection to the motion? The motion is agreed to in terms of section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Chabango.
Thank you, Chair. I hereby move on behalf of EFF that the House take note that we forward sincere condolences to the families of the 4 mine workers who died yesterday at Sibanye Stillwater. We further move that more should be done to put the 5th member to find the 5th member that is still missing. We also request that Minister Samson Mantashe put safety measures to curb these deaths. I so move.
Is there any objection to the motion? The motion is agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Nita, you are the last one.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. On behalf of the African National Congress, I hereby move without notice that the Council notes the utmost concern the utter senseless banning of the 2 schools in Siabuswa, Mpumalanga, leaving hundreds of children without classrooms. Further notes that the Siatokoza Senior Secondary School and Tabana Senior Phase School were apparently set ablaze between Friday night and Saturday morning because some members of the community were not happy with the results of the recent by-elections. Take this opportunity to condemn in the harshest possible terms this utter senseless act disregarding of education facilities such as schools as cornerstone of the national efforts to rebuild and empower communities to break the historical bondages of our people to poverty and illiteracy, and calls on the people of Siabuswa and the Mpumalanga MEC for Education, MEC Sibusiso Malaza, to ensure that the perpetrators of this senseless and reckless act are brought into book. Thank you very much.
Is there any objection to the motion? The motion is agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Before we proceed, honorable members, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome our ministers, Deputy Minister, special delegates to the House. The Secretary will read the first and the second orders of the day.
Policy debate on budget vote number 28, Labour. Policy debate on budget vote number 33, Tourism Appropriation Bill B3 2018.
The first speaker is the Minister of Labour, Honorable Minister Oliphant.
Thank you, House Chairperson, House Chair, Cabinet colleagues, Deputy Minister, honorable members, leaders of our social partners, guests in the gallery, ladies and gentlemen. Let us recall our profound mission as aptly captured in the preamble of our Constitution. Honorable members, our Constitution enjoined us, among other things to do, firstly, heal the division of the past and establish a society based on democratic values, social justice, and fundamental human rights. 2, improve the quality of life of all citizens and free the potential of each other. I submit, honorable members, that the preamble of our supreme law of the land underscores what our struggle icons, Ma Albertina Sisulu and the former president, late Nelson Mandela, stood for and made huge sacrifices so that you and I and the people of South Africa could declare that we are free at last. We therefore share a collective responsibility and duty as South Africans to ensure that these ideals and values are not only in theory but become real. I submit, honorable members, that labor laws play an important catalytic role in our quest to enhance democratic value, social justice, and fundamental human rights for our people. In the same token, they provide the foundation on which to build the necessary instruments towards improving the quality of life of all citizens. As a matter of fact, our mission to put in place legal instruments that are in keeping with our quest for social justice has largely been accomplished. Today, I stand before you and the nation to report on our work and our plans as we implement our commitments in the 2014 to 2019 medium-term strategic framework and the 2014 ANC election manifesto. We do this work being fully cognizant of the fact that the world of work is changing more rapidly than it was the case in the past. The fourth industrial revolution, as it has become known, is truly upon us, ladies and gentlemen. These developments pose serious challenges for policymakers, not only in South Africa, but globally. It is partly for these reasons that the ILO has established a Global Commission on the Future of Work, led by His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa and His Excellency the Prime Minister of Sweden, Mr. Stefan Löfven, to investigate and provide leadership on how we should respond to these challenges. Honorable House Chairperson, the passage of the National Minimum Wage Bill from the National Assembly to this House gives all of us, and especially millions of low-paid workers, a glimmer of hope that the road to social justice will soon become a reality. Ordinarily, setting minimum wages is a function of collective bargaining. However, we are also aware that collective bargaining only works better when trade unions are strong. The challenge is that out of the 16.4 million employed people in South Africa, as at May 2018, all the trade unions combined represent less than 5 million workers. This means that there is a large number of workers that have no union representative as such and are not likely to benefit directly from collective bargaining processes. These are often workers that trade unions have not been able to organize, or their unions are not strong enough to represent them through collective bargaining. Therefore, instruments such as ministerial determinations and the national minimum wage are designed precisely to address the plight of this category of workers. I have said this before, and I want to say it again, to underscore that whilst the introduction of the national minimum wage may not mean a lot to those who are well looked after in the world of work, but for the majority of the vulnerable workers, some of whom still earn way below 1,500 a month, it will make a huge difference. The national minimum wage is not by means a living wage, but a good start in that direction. Honorable House Chair, let me preface my input on the other elements of service delivery by noting that the number of people who now have access to the services of the department has grown significantly since 1994. The service offerings of the department have also increased many folds from what it used to be in the past. We also recognize that the increases in the service we provide and the increased number of people that have access to our services has inadvertently put a strain on our infrastructure. It is undeniable that our infrastructure has not kept up with the volumes of people that use our service offerings. As a result, this is inevitably compromised the quality of service delivery in some instances. For this reason, we have developed plans to ramp up our infrastructure and modernization of our service delivery platforms. Improving the infrastructure and capacity of our labor centers is at the core of our efforts to improve service delivery. The Unemployment Insurance Fund and Compensation Fund are leading in this initiative. In addition to putting in place bricks and mortar service delivery centers in some areas and introducing mobile services platform, we are also modernizing the infrastructure through embracing and enhancing technology. Compensation Fund has launched CF filing, which removes the manual registration and other prescribed processes. We are very pleased that within a short space of time, over 8,000 new employees have been registered and over 160,000 return of earnings were for the first time submitted using the CF filing system. The new innovation in the Compensation Fund enables the employers to register, pay, and obtain a letter of good standing without having to visit the Compensation Fund or a labor center. Furthermore, the Compensation Fund has made great progress in fixing some of its challenges of the past, including paying out to its beneficiaries on time. During the period under review, The fund adjudicated 189,788 claims on time, resulting in payment of benefit to deserving beneficiary to the tune of 3.6 billion rand and a total of 11.7 billion rand since 2014. This is indeed a signal that the fund has dealt with swiftly some of its challenges. To this end, Compensation Fund has initiated a process to acquire 4 fully equipped buses to service our communities. 2 of these buses will be equipped as mobile medical clinics and the other 2 with administrative capabilities. On UIF, the UIF, on the other hand, has introduced an online e-filing system which allows employers to transact with the fund online. We have also introduced Wi-Fi connectivity in our labor centers as an enabler where those seeking assistance can access the information they need without having to stand in the queue. We are aware that the UIF, for the first time in many years, is faced with the reputational risks due primarily to poor service at various labor centers across the country. To respond to this challenge, a comprehensive service delivery action plan has been developed and is being implemented as we speak. Key in the service delivery plan is the resolve to pursue customer-centric processes that will assist in breaking logjams in service delivery. The Unemployment Insurance Fund has also initiated the process to employ over 200 client services officers to be deployed across labor centers in order to improve service delivery. We are excited about these groundbreaking achievements as they truly demonstrate our commitment to upgrade our infrastructure for the benefits of our people. We have prioritized communities in rural areas and semi-rural areas to be the first to benefit from the additional capacity. Honorable House Chair, we will continue with our programs to enhance employability of our people through various active labor market interventions. We also continue to work with the Department of Higher Education and Training, Public Works on expanded Public Works Program Exit Plan, and the Technical and Vocational Education and Training College on upskilling UIF beneficiaries. The Labor Activation Program will continue in its effort to train and retrain workers targeting real employment opportunities with a strong bias to rural and semi-rural areas. House Chair, I want to report that LAP beneficiaries are with us today in the gallery, and I will appeal to them just to stand up so that the honorable members can see them. And they come from here in the Western Cape. To date, the program has been successful in training people in sectors such as building and civil construction and enhancing entrepreneurial skills. Trailing layoff scheme and turnaround solutions program, on the other hand, has also contributed immensely to job savings that will have been lost through retrenchments. Our focus going forward is to massify outputs and grow the reach of the program. You will be pleased to know that to date, a total of 59 cooperatives were provided with training through a partnership with AgriSeta. These included 4 from Limpopo, 14 in Gauteng, 6 in Eastern Cape, 3 Northern Cape, 8 in Northwest, 20 in KwaZulu-Natal, and 4 in Mpumalanga. We will continue this partnership and also bring the other provinces on board. On the Unemployment Insurance Fund investment and the Compensation Fund are leveraging their investment in the manner that seeks to create employment opportunities for our people. We do this by partnering with the PIC and also with the IDC. And as we speak, we are injecting 4 billion rand of its investable income to a developmental fund that has helped save thousands of jobs in the distressed manufacturing sector, whilst also creating new jobs. We are satisfied that this partnership is delivering on its objective, given that already it has created 29,895 jobs and saved 16,560 jobs to date. It is regrettable, however, that UIF has had to be delayed in order to accommodate, UIF bill has been delayed in order to accommodate the amendments brought about as a result of the private members' bill. I can report, though, that the regulations have been finalized in anticipation of the bill becoming the law. On inspection and enforcement, Honorable House Chair, the imminent advent of the national minimum wage and other amendments to the LRA and BCEA will no doubt reinforce inspection and enforcement. Of note is the new role of the CCMA, which will provide the dispute resolution capability and recovery of monies payable to workers. We are pleased to report that our inspection and enforcement has developed an enforcement strategy to align with the CCMA and visage enforcement role. On employment equity, despite the JSE claiming and insisting in the media last year that their listed companies were all compliant, we discovered and reviewed 74 of their listed entities that were found to be non-compliant. Overall, 45 non-compliant companies were challenged in court, and their cases await finalization by the court. The National Economic Development and Labour Council continues to carry out its work guided by its mandate and scope. Whilst there may be challenges organizationally, the Council considered and concluded over 12 bills and policy matters in the year under review. In addition, the Council is currently dealing with a range of policy matters, including but not limited to the Compensation for Occupational Injuries and Diseases Amendment Bill, National Health Insurance, Comprehensive Social Security and Retirement Reform Proposals, and Section 77 matters. And CCMA continues to demonstrate that it is capable and equal to its mandate. It is worth noting that it was the first labor market institution to examine its state of readiness to implement the national minimum wage bill in anticipation of it becoming the law. It is efficiency and effectiveness in implementing its mandate on conciliation and arbitration to ensure that social justice becomes a reality for vulnerable workers is remarkable. On average, the CCMA takes 23 days to deal with conciliation cases as compared to the legislated target of 30 days and 64 days to deal with the arbitration cases. More than 53,000 people participated in capacity building engagement, thereby improving their understanding of their rights and responsibilities in terms of the labor law. This program also dealt with educating ordinary workers on how to access the services and the relief that CCMA provides. The CCMA regional offices ensured that in the course of Section 189A facilitations, the CCMA assisted in saving 25,196 jobs that were likely to be lost through retrenchment in this regard. When it comes to Productivity SA has, through the Turnaround Solution Program, provided support to 71 companies facing economic distress. To this end, 8,505 jobs were saved in the process. The institution also offers the Workplace Challenge Program, which is an enterprise support program with a focus on achieving a productive high-income economy which is globally competitive, targeting the productive sector of the economy which have a potential to labor absorption. Over the past financial year, 590 companies were supported through the WPC program and over 45,232 jobs were saved. In addition, a total of 21,570, which includes SMMEs and cooperatives, were trained and 197 workplace forums were established and empowered to promote consultation and dialogue on productivity improvement solutions in the workplace. Honorable members, previously we displayed here at Parliament, the Public Employment Services bus equipped with technology to assist work seekers with registering of their CVs on our database for potential employment opportunities provided by employers. In the last financial year, 2017-2018, over 20,000 work seekers were assisted with finding jobs opportunities. And I must report that today we have the beneficiaries of that particular program sitting in the gallery as well, and they come from here in the Western Cape, and I also want to appeal to them to stand up so that the members can see them. And last year we reported on a partnership between the Compensation Fund and South African Institute for Chartered Accountants, where 100 learners were taken on the training program focusing on medical, accounting, and actuarial skills. The geographical spread of the learners covered all our 9 provinces. You will be pleased to know that the first intake of 100 learners have all progressed to the exit level, and we will continue with this program going forward. Honorable members, we have realized that many communities are not aware of their rights and responsibilities in terms of our labor laws. We have also become aware that communities have very limited knowledge of the various government-sponsored support programs that are designed to help them. For these reasons, we launched an aggressive ministerial outreach program with a strong rural and semi-rural bias to inform communities on our labor laws and the services that government provides in general and how to access such services. We do this work in collaboration with other government departments. Our outreach programs have covered areas such as Indwedwe, Empangeni, Pongola, Stebe, and Ingwavuma in KwaZulu-Natal, Memel, Friede, Villiers, Frankfurt, and Wadden in the Free State, Riversdale, and Kelmore in the Western Cape. We reached and touched well over 10,000 people through this program. Our 7,000 community members who attended our sessions received services ranging from payout of unemployment fund benefits, tracking compensation fund and ex-mine workers claimants, and provided guidance to small business on how to access government support programs. Over 1.5 million rand in unclaimed benefits were paid out to qualifying beneficiaries purely because of this outreach program. We are therefore determined to continue with our programs as the platform to empower our communities and to provide on-site assistance. Honorable members, you will recall that South Africa assumed the chair for international bodies this year. I am pleased to report that we hosted a successful session of the SADC Ministers of Employment and Labor and Social Partners March this year here in the Western Cape. We will also be hosting Ministers of Labor and Employment and Social Partners from BRICS countries. I am pleased to report that we attended ILC in Geneva a few days ago. The conference dealt with various topics including the challenges of the future of work, social dialogue and tripartism, capping violence and harassment in the world of work, and the new push for equality for women in the world of work. I am also happy that the representatives from this House and the National Assembly were part of the South African delegation. Honorable members, you will be pleased to know that the ILO extended an invitation to our President to address the ILC's centenary conference in June 2019, pleasantly coinciding as it does with the historic year of the celebration of the birth of South Africa's first democratically elected president, the late Nelson Mandela. This is indeed a gesture of the highest honor for South Africa and its people. As I close, I want to assure you that issues raised by the AG are being attended to, and I'm assured that there is a progress in this regard. Honorable members, you will notice that our budget allocation weighting takes into the areas that require capacity enhancement going forward. On the total budget, 5 key programs will take the biggest share given the challenges and workload that awaits. That is CCMA, administration, inspection and enforcement, public employment services, and network. Honorable House Chair, let me conclude by thanking the Deputy Minister of Labour, Advocate Nkosi Phathekile Holomisa in absentia for his support. Also extend my sincere gratitude to the chairperson and honorable members of the Select Committee for their support, advice and guidance. I hereby table the 2018-19 budget, vote 28, totaling 3.2 billion for the Department of Labour for your consideration. And I thank you, House Chairperson.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable members, let me apologize to some of you that knows that we do have the clock there. So today the system is not working. So you'll be relying on me to advise you. The Honorable Minister of Tourism, Honorable Hanekom. No, the clock will be making the sound. Honorable Minister.
Honorable Chairperson, honorable members, and dear Deputy Minister Tabete, I'm honored to be back in this very, very exciting portfolio. It's a special privilege to be here today with our partners in our provinces where we do tourism. We have a beautiful country with rich cultural diversity and spectacular natural attractions, giving us a solid foundation to grow tourism responsibly, sustainably, and inclusively. With a total of 1.6 million people employed across its wide value chain, tourism is a beacon of hope for so many people in our country who are without jobs and incomes. Last year, honorable members, over 10 million international tourists visited South Africa, and we can substantially grow the number of visitors to our country if we implement our revised national tourism sector strategy. The strategy is anchored around 5 pillars, namely, improving our tourism assets and infrastructure, offering excellent service and creating memorable experiences, marketing our destination effectively, making it easier for tourists to come to our country, and very importantly, transforming the industry. Honorable members, as you are well aware, there is massive untapped potential for tourism growth across our country in all provinces. The quality of the 135 hidden gems which were put on show at Africa's Travel Indaba shows just how much value can be unlocked and how our tourism offer can be diversified. Increasingly, tourists are looking for authentic and unique cultural experiences. Enterprises that provide these immersive cultural experiences attract more tourists and at the same time extend the geographic spread of tourism to remote rural areas where jobs are so desperately needed. Honorable members, for us to remain competitive and increase our visitor numbers, we have to continuously improve our product offerings. Last year, we developed a destination planning manual. This year, we will use the manual to develop tourism precinct plans, starting, as it happens, right here in Khayelitsha. The department will also conduct master planning exercises in areas where there is underdeveloped potential. These sessions will identify infrastructure needs, planning approvals, policy blockages, and facilities, and will facilitate integration with other sectors. Master development plans will be created for the area from Sutherland to Carnarvon, which includes the square kilometre array area, from Honderklip Bay to Port Nulloth, from Port St. John's to Coffee Bay, and at the Orange River mouth. Destination enhancement projects include the construction of a new gate into the Kruger National Park at Shangoni and the Palaborwa Wild Activity Hub, creating opportunities for jobs and small enterprises in areas where unemployment is very high. Construction on the Dinosaur Interpretation Center in the Free State and the Leopard Trail at the Baviaanskloof World Heritage Site will also start this year. To make our tourist destinations and facilities more accessible to people living with disabilities, older people, and young children, universal access facilities will be built at the Bladder River Canyon in Mpumalanga, the Hilltop Rest Camp at the Tlhutlhui Game Reserve in KwaZulu-Natal, the Garib Dam Nature Reserve in the Free State, and the Dwesa Kwebe Nature Reserve in the Eastern Cape. Interpretive signage will be installed at the Tlhutlhui, Mkambati, and Dwesa Kwebe Nature Reserves, the Tsitsikamma National Park, the Bladder River Canyon, and at the Square Kilometre Array site. This will give visitors all the information they need to make their visits more meaningful and more memorable. The department is also creating a model to guide the development of budget resorts. Many of these resorts are owned by provinces or municipalities and are in dire need of refurbishment and improved management. They provide opportunities for local entrepreneurs and can help us to grow domestic tourism by providing more affordable holiday options. Many of our infrastructure development projects are carried out under the Working for Tourism program, which creates jobs and offers young people an opportunity to develop skills and gain real workplace experience. Community-led tourism enterprises are being developed at Vitsisuk in the Free State, Kula Village, and Mazizini in KwaZulu-Natal, Rapampa in the Northwest, and Vilakazi Street in Gauteng. Developing our assets requires investment from both the public and the private sectors. We have established a dedicated unit to promote investment and are developing a pipeline of investment projects. The department is also assisting provinces to package their investment opportunities. Tourism investments worth 69 million rand were made in South Africa last year. This represents over 88% of total investment in our country. Every investment in products, facilities, and infrastructure makes our country an even more attractive destination, bringing more tourists, more jobs, and more opportunity. Honourable members, to continuously attract more tourists, the overall experience has to leave customers satisfied and wanting more. Creating memorable experiences requires the best of service at all the touch points of the traveller's journey. Deputy Minister Tabete will tell you how our training programs are opening up new career opportunities, especially for youth and women, while also giving them the skills to offer excellent service to our tourists. This year, the department will implement service excellence standards at visitor information centres in St. Lucia, in KwaZulu-Natal, Port St. John's in the Eastern Cape, and at Pilanesberg in the Northwest. This follows the successful implementation of these standards at Manyane Game Reserve, Robben Island, and Skukuza Camp in the Kruger National Park last year. Honourable members, the next important pillar to grow tourism is marketing. South African tourism has set itself the ambitious but achievable target of an additional 4 million international tourist arrivals and 1 million additional domestic holiday trips by 2021. The centerpiece of our marketing efforts, Africa's Travel Indaba, was a great success this year. Over 1,700 buyers came to do business with more than 1,200 exhibitors, representing tourism products from no less than 22 African countries. Domestic tourism remains the bedrock of successful tourism destinations, and we are working hard to unlock the potential of the domestic market. The number of domestic holiday trips increased by about 30% last year, although the average spend and length of stay on these trips has decreased. Affordability remains the biggest barrier to domestic travel. This presents an opportunity for entrepreneurs to develop products that suit the needs and pockets of all South Africans. Honourable members, one of the easiest ways we can increase tourist arrivals is simply by making it easier for people to travel to our country. While many countries in the world are issuing visas on arrival with online visa applications, in most cases, travelers to South Africa have to apply in person for a visa at high cost and considerable inconvenience. It is very encouraging that the Department of Home Affairs has announced its intention to introduce e-visas this financial year, and in the interim to accept valid visas from selected countries as valid for entry into South Africa. We have also agreed to bring requirements for traveling minors in line with the practice in the USA, UK, and other countries. This will boost family travel and prevent travelers from being turned away by airlines. Honourable members, we will do everything we can to ensure the continued growth of the tourism sector, but growth on its own is just not enough. We must ensure that it is inclusive growth, creating not only jobs, but real opportunities for new entrants and the expansion of black-owned businesses in the industry. The Tourism BBEE Charter Council reported that less than 45% of enterprises in the accommodation, hospitality, and travel subsectors have achieved the 30% target for ownership. At the conference on the state of transformation in tourism, organized by the department last year, delegates urged government and the private sector to improve access to funding, procurement, and markets. The department has 4 incentive programs to advance transformation. These are the Market Access Support Program, which helps small businesses exhibit at various local and international trade shows like our own Indaba. The Tourism Grading Support Program, assisting establishments to enjoy the benefits of being graded. The Green Tourism Incentive Program, which promotes the conversion to clean and renewable energy and reduces operational costs, and the Tourism Transformation Fund, which was launched last month to help black businesses to start up or to expand. Funding remains a major challenge for new entrants and small businesses. The fund, which combines own contribution with both grant and loan finance, will help black investors and communities to invest capital in tourism projects, giving rise to a new generation of youth, women, and black-owned tourism enterprises. The value of tourism, honourable members, goes far beyond its contribution to economic transformation. It offers life-changing experiences, forges new friendships, and allows people to learn about each other and embrace our wonderful diversity. As we celebrate the Nelson Mandela centenary this year, we are exploring new ways of telling the story of our liberation struggle. SA Tourism has created an app called Madiba's Journey, which showcases 100 attractions that have ties to Madiba's life. I urge all of you, honourable members, to use this app. You will discover how digital technology is advancing tourism in our country. In conclusion, Chairperson, I would like to express my appreciation to Deputy Minister Tabete for her enthusiastic contribution. The Select Committee, under the sterling leadership of Honourable Edwin Makwe, and our MECs, I see MEC Sigalala is here, for tourism, for the spirit in which provincial and national officials work together. The work of the South African tourism team, under the energetic leadership of CEO Sisa Nchona, is greatly appreciated. I also thank the outgoing board members of SA Tourism for their thoughtful guidance, and I wish the incoming board, chaired by Monwabisi Fandeso, every success for the term ahead. And finally, Chairperson, my sincere appreciation to the entire Department of Tourism, led by Director General Victor Tarache, for their passion and dedication. I value the collaborative relationship we have established with leaders in the tourism industry. Together, we will constantly strive to grow tourism in a way that improves the quality of life of all South Africans. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The Chairperson of the Select Committee of Trade and International Relations, Honourable Makwe.
Thank you, Chairperson. I kindly request that you remind me if I have 5 minutes left. Honourable members, ministers, and Deputy Minister Tabete, honourable members of the provincial legislatures, the Director General, and officials from the 2 government departments, the CEOs and board members of SA Tourism, the representative from Salga, ladies and gentlemen in the balcony. Allow me, Chairperson, to first convey our heartfelt condolences to the National Department of Tourism Director General, Mr. Tarache, and his family on the bereavement of his brother. It's my pleasure, on behalf of the Select Committee, to in the same breath also sincerely congratulate the newly appointed board members of SA Tourism. They are a credible team and a competent board with proven track records, and we trust that they will take South Africa's tourism sector to even greater heights. Together, we do tourism. The focus areas for this policy debate, Chairperson, is under tourism to highlight the importance of the tourism sector in our national efforts to re-engineer the economy to create more work opportunities and enhance the contribution of the tourism sector to our national priorities. In terms of labor, we are anticipating that we'll address the need to wage a concerted battle against unemployment, poverty, and inequality through programs that are geared towards supporting work seekers, improving economic efficiency and productivity. The National Department of Tourism is responsible to formulate a legal and regulatory framework for the sustainable development and management of tourism. In the past 4 years, we members in the Select Committee in general, and particularly we members of the ANC, have been satisfied with the overall performance of the department. We commend the Minister and Team Tourism, as well as the board members of SA Tourism, officials and staff on their performance. They agree with us that there is still room for improvement. Therefore, this budget provides for a corporate governance system that must coordinate efforts to create coherence amongst all the role players. Accordingly, the mission of the Department of Tourism is to grow an inclusive and sustainable tourism economy through good corporate and cooperative governance, through strategic partnerships and collaboration, through innovation and knowledge management, and then finally also through effective stakeholder communication. The National Development Plan recognizes tourism as one of the main drivers of unemployment and economic growth. Even our adversaries appreciate this ambition. In conformance with the ANC's strategy for radical economic transformation to achieve inclusive growth, the National Department of Tourism programs and focus on policy, people, and places. And I'll speak to each of them. Firstly, on policy. It, amongst others, focuses on strengthening monitoring and evaluation mechanisms to monitor progress, to measure the effect and impact of programs on individuals, communities, enterprises, society, and the economy. With regard to people, the focus is, amongst others, on training of tour operators to stimulate domestic consumption demand and an enterprise development incubator program focused on townships, villages, and rural nodes. With regard to places, the National Department of Tourism will engage in spatial planning with a focus on township tourism, rural nodes, and the oceans economy. In doing this, the department also endeavors to enhance investment facilitation and the utilization of state-owned assets in order to leverage transformation. Through our participation of members of this parliament in Provincial I Do tourism activities facilitated by SA Tourism, we have experienced the enthusiasm and successes of stakeholders in the tourism sector. As a services export sector, tourism is a significant earner of foreign currency. In the South African context, this growth in the tourism sector should be underpinned by the principle of inclusivity to drive tourism sector transformation. An increase in tourism's economic contribution is driven by an increase in domestic and international tourist arrivals, as well as an increase in tourist spend. Along with its partners, the department must create an environment conducive to this increase by ensuring a quality and diverse tourism offering, as well as by developing the sector capacity. Honorable Chairperson and members, the budget of this department is properly geared towards the tourism sector transformation, towards research and knowledge management, towards skills development for the sector, towards destination development, including coastal and marine destinations, towards enterprise development, to enhance responsible tourism, and then also finally to facilitate regulatory interventions that are of particular importance for us as legislatures. Annual events like the Tourism in Durban, where we enjoy the participation of other African countries, has proved to be an effective means towards achievement of these transformation goals. The overarching goal and the 5 strategic areas of the National Tourism Sector Strategy pillars towards the inclusive and quality growth of South African economy are effective marketing, facilitating ease of access, enhancing the visiting and enriching the visitor experience, proper destination management, and then broad-based benefits. The Departments of Tourism Policy and International Relations are in line with ANC's strategic objectives, and the objective statements are clearly defined in the program performance indicators for tourism development and inclusive economic growth. 22 monitoring and evaluation reports will be produced during the 2018-19 financial year. And Minister, we said to the DG, we want to see each of those reports so that we can perform our oversight appropriately. The National Department of Tourism will implement the expanded public works programs, funded projects intended to improve the product offering and the visitor experience, as well as creating full-time equivalent job opportunities. We are all committed and worried about small, middle, and medium enterprises. This budget is in line with the ANC's policy position on SMME support. Non-financial business development support will be provided in this budget to 400 SMMEs. The rollout of national MME financial literacy and management accounts and marketing skills and platforms for development programs will be provided to these 400 enterprises. And when the department presented this plan to us, they even broke it down into quarterly targets. The safety of our tourists, honorable members, is imperative. And this will be catered for through the 1,450 tourism monitors that will be enrolled in this financial year. Gauteng will have 200 monitors, Mpumalanga 250, Eastern Cape 200, Western Cape 100, KwaZulu-Natal 250, Northern Cape 50, Free State 50, Northwest 100, and Limpopo, Honorable Dikgale, 250. Capacity building in the National Department of Tourism will continue. Chair, let me then go to labor. When the African National Congress government took power in 1994, the ready-to-govern policy, as well as the reconstruction and development program policy documents served as the blueprints on what needs to be done to undo over 300 years of colonial and apartheid repression. But the ANC also knew it would not be easy and that it would take time to achieve all the things that needed to be done. The Reconstruction and Development Program states, and I quote, "No political party can survive and flourish if the mass of our people remain in poverty, without land, without tangible prospects for a better life. Attacking poverty and deprivation must therefore be the first priority of the democratic government," unquote. The South African labor market is characterized by the high levels of unemployment, poverty, and inequality in the context of slow economic growth. The instability of the South African economy lies in the distorted passion of ownership and economic exclusion created by our painful historic apartheid past and its diabolical policies. The effects of decades of racial exclusion are still evident in both employment levels and income differentials. The fault lines of these differentials are principally racially, defined also by, amongst others, skills levels, gender, and location. Economic growth, therefore, gives us the revenue we need to implement our massive fiscal distribution program as government. It creates new wealth and assets which can be redistributed to the previously dispossessed. We all recognize that we have enormous economic potential in export manufacturing, tourism, the agro-industry, the oceans economy, business service, etc. But the pace to address growth constraints is unacceptably slow. Key to unlocking growth in this budget before us will be to work better with business and labor to reduce the cost of doing business, to identify obstacles to investment, and to remove such obstacles. In South Africa, most low-income households live far from the centers of economic activity. The costs of searching for and getting to work are high, and information about work is often unavailable. In this context, labor market services are extremely important, including those that prepare work seekers and match them with work opportunities. The ANC called for government to act to improve the quality of active labor market policies and create incentives for absorbing the young employees so that young, unskilled job seekers can gain entry into employment. The ANC's 53rd National Conference of 2012 resolved to ensure that our programs and policies should focus on developing skills that are required by the economy so that the youth can become part of the mainstream economy. Chairperson, a very important sector for us that is very often ignored. 10% of the global population are people living with disabilities. The Department of Labor is looking at this vulnerable sector in our community by continuing to engage in supported employment enterprises. This SEEs will receive a transfer from the Public Employment Services Program. And this transfer is aimed to accelerate employment opportunities for people with disabilities. About 100 additional persons with disabilities will be provided with work opportunities in the SEE by the end of March 2019. And the department can be assured that we will monitor that progress consistently. The ANC has showed its commitment to ensure that learners are also trained in various skills disciplines with a special focus on those that carry the promise of absorbing the learners on completion of their courses. It makes no sense for our youth to just acquire their education. Through this budget, we are looking at creating opportunities for them to earn a living as well. The aim is not to train for the sake of training, but to target those skills where there is demand in the economy and where learners have an option of starting their own business if they so choose. The department has signed memorandums of understandings with technical and vocational education and training institutions, TVET colleges. This is done to train UIF beneficiaries in order to fast-track their re-entry back into the labor market and to enable entrepreneurship and preserve jobs. Despite these positive changes, Chairperson, challenges remain. Over the past 10 years, there has been fragmentation of the labor market with many more workers in casual and temporary work than those workers in full-time employment. Youth unemployment remains persistently high, and access to employment and the labor market is a challenge for many people, especially our people living in the rural areas. The South African labor movement understood and consistently maintained that these challenges cannot be separated from broader social struggles, that economic justice and equality cannot be achieved without workers playing a meaningful role in the shaping of the discourse. NEDLAC is but just one example of how this ANC-led government is creating the forums for meaningful engagement between the private sector, business, labor, government, and civil society. Thank you, Chairperson. Wage inequality is continually viewed as a challenge in South Africa's labor market. It also contributes to unfair practices and industrial relations is affected. One of the measures to address this problem was the introduction of the national minimum wage. This was made possible by the determination of social partners so as to reduce wage inequality while maintaining economic growth and employment creation. The election manifesto of the ANC of 2014 committed the ANC-led government to investigate the modalities for the introduction of the national minimum wage. This commitment was made in the interest of reducing South Africa's massive income inequality, to create employment that delivers fair income, that provides social protection for families, and to ensure that all workers are paid reasonable and have decent employment. This commitment was further reaffirmed by the 54th National Conference of the ANC that took a resolution on the minimum wage and indicated that it must be implemented as a matter of urgency, as the minimum wage regime will impact positively on the lives of many low-paid workers. Hence, the improvement in the living conditions of our society, and this will be progressively introduced. The ANC remains committed to doing much more to improve the lives of South Africans and to contribute to the advancement of the lives of all South Africans. It's my honor to announce support for the tourism and labor budget policies. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Honorable Makweba, can you continue the debate?
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Ministers, Honorable Members, DG, fellow South Africans, it's been 48 hours since we descended back to the shores of motherland after we have, as a delegation of Parliament, visited the 107 International Labour Conference. I must say to you, Minister of the Department of Labour, we have observed and made our own observation, and I just want to say, we are impressed to find that your officials are taking center stage and they are playing a prominent role and lifting the South African flag high as they are members of committees and, instrumental in shaping the course and the cause in the mandate of the International Labour Conference. But back to my prepared speech. The entities that support the Department of Labour, Minister, are crucial. Let me hasten to say that the CCMA is undoubtedly in good hands and doing very well, and NEDLAC and Labour Council had unqualified reports, and that again is commendable. UIF had 9 consecutive unqualified audit reports, and again that is commendable. But here is the problem, Minister. The compensation fund is, with due respect, remains in shambles. I heard you saying that strides are made. Now, on the 7th of November 2017, the compensation fund appeared before our Select Committee on Economic and Business Development, and they presented their annual performance report 2016-2017. The overall performance for the compensation fund for annual performance plan 2016-2017 was sitting at 50%. The fund's annual audit plan had not been approved by its audit committee by March 2017, but had, however, only been approved towards the end of the first quarter of 2017-2018. The fund had also been unable to meet its annual target of having an investment portfolio return of 8.28%, with actual returns only being 7.17%. The fund had taken an action to revise its investment strategy. The fund was also unable to achieve its planned target of maintaining its vacancy rate of 10.3%. On the financial performance, Honorable Chairperson, the compensation fund for 2016-2017 total revenue of 13.4 billion and expenditure set at 6.6 billion, there was a surplus of 6.6 billion. The committee collectively was not pleased with the performance of the compensation fund. The performance only set at 50%, and members have observed that they continue to face serious problems. Now, the question that arises is whether this compensation fund is in good hands. Minister, members felt that the management of the fund is weak. 3 disclaimers in 3 years was unacceptable. Members were concerned that the compensation fund was managing funds from workers' contributions. The whole idea of having the fund was to assist the workers when they are in dire distress. The Select Committee was also concerned that the fund, or the compensation fund, had not addressed the 78 findings of the Auditor General of South Africa. This failure, Minister, Honorable Chairperson, opens up the fund to fraud and corruption. On the findings of the AGSA, that is the AG of South Africa, the compensation fund had alluded that they are addressing these issues and they have entered into a memorandum of understanding with the Department of Labour, that is the Inspectorate section. But we know this will not work, Minister, because your department continues to have a dire shortage of staff on inspection and enforcement. The fruitless and wasteful expenditure amounted to a whopping 400 million due to wrongdoing, and there was over 34 cases under investigation. At the time they were reporting to us, November 2017, a total of 163 cases had been condoned. But here is another problem. Notwithstanding this poor performance, 5 million was paid out in performance bonuses when the organization's performance sat at merely 50%. How come? Honorable members, Chairperson, the mandate of the Department of Labour is to regulate the labour market through policies and programs developed in consultation with social partners, which are aimed at following. Quickly spell out: improved economic efficiency and productivity, employment creation, labor relations, eliminating inequality and discrimination in the workplace, and alleviating poverty in employment. Chairperson, even if all our labor laws and policies are progressive, if the enforcement is weak, then what is the point? The Department of Labor continues to have serious shortage of human resources to conduct inspections and enforcement of our labor laws. And this undermines the mandate of the department and often leading to strikes, which could have been averted had the department had the necessary capacity. Honorable Chairperson, members, fellow South Africans, Marianne Levin, a reporter at Politico, referencing labor laws in the United States of America, wrote in February in her article entitled, "Behind the Minimum Wage Fight, a Sweeping Failure to Enforce the Law." I quote, "Wage laws are poorly enforced, with workers often unable to recover back even after the government rules in their favor. A 9-month investigation by Politico, which found that workers are so lightly protected that 6 states have no investigators to handle minimum wage violations, while 26 additional states have fewer than 10 investigators. Given the widespread of wage theft and lack of resources to combat it, most cases go unreported. Thus, an estimated $15 billion is desperately needed income for workers with lowest wages goes instead into pockets of shady bosses," close quote. Honorable Chairperson, honorable ministers, fellow members, this is as true here at home as it is internationally. This therefore calls upon the Department of Labor Minister to be creative and innovative, lest it fails to discharge its mandate. To address this chronic shortage of human resources for inspection and compliance, which can have the potential to make a mockery of our labor laws, the minister has an urgent duty to ensure that this is corrected. Because the question is, given the minimum wage, how is the department going to enforce the minimum wage if it has a serious shortage of staff on inspection and compliance, inspection enforcement rather? As the DA, we have argued, and we continue to argue, that the minimum wage should have been determined by sector perhaps. Honorable Chairperson, the failure to enforce compliance has dire and deadly consequences. According to the International Labour Organization's report, globally, every 15 seconds, a worker dies from a work-related accident or disease. The Department of Labor has less than 2,000 inspectors, yet there are more than 3.2 million companies registered in South Africa. It means that the department has one inspector for every 120,000 economically active citizens, compared to the United Nations International Labour Organization's recommendation of 1 to 20,000. We have a long road to go, Minister, and we must move very fast. Otherwise, we are indeed running a risk of making a mockery of our labor laws. Until this is corrected, Minister, many of our labor laws will be all to naught, with all the good intents and purposes. Minister, as the DA, we are on record that we believe in good governance. And the compensation fund has challenges on good governance, and we plead with the minister to draw closer to the compensation fund and make sure that all these wrongs are corrected. And until that is done, it becomes difficult to support this budget vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Honorable Tabate, Deputy Minister, can you continue?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Let me acknowledge the Minister of Tourism, Minister Derek Haneko, Minister of Labor, Minister Oliphant and MEC Zigalala, and chairpersons of select committees, Makwe and Khai, members of Parliament, Director General, in absentia, but with all the officials, DDGs, CEO of South African Tourism, and ladies and gentlemen, I think also I have to acknowledge one of our learners who are here from Mamelodi, Mahlokhonolo Shabangu, a student from
one of our schools in public schools, but a very sharp mind and the future of this country. She's up there at the gallery. I rise to address this House in the centenary year of our former President Nelson Mandela, as well as Mama Sisulu and Uombeno there, whose selfless efforts and struggle contributed to the democracy we enjoy today. May their revolutionary spirit live on, particularly as we work tirelessly to transform our tourism sector for the benefit of all South Africans. Honorable members, the South African destination experience relies on the diverse offerings of many enterprises, including some of the SMME interventions, and I'm sure you heard from our minister talking about the hidden gems, and we hope that we'll be able to accelerate that and assist much more. In this regard, in terms of the establishment of 4 incubators to address exactly mentoring, assistance to some of these hidden gems, we've managed to surpass our mandate because we're supposed to establish 1, but we established 2 more incubators. Last year we reported 2 in this House. And it is working very well. We hope that we can get much more. Then since we are moving with speed, we are also implementing human resource development initiatives for the tourism sector. Our National Youth Chefs Training Program is now in its 5th phase and has benefited a total of 1,867 young people in South Africa. And in the past year alone, we have seen 76 young chefs being placed in international hotels in the United States of America and 20 in the Seychelles. And youth hospitality program as well contributed to 6,813 unemployed youth have received accreditation qualification in food and beverage services, accommodation services, and a national certificate in fast food. We will train an additional 2,375 learners this financial year. Wine services as well, we are trying to do our best in terms of the sommeliers training in Cape Town, KwaZulu-Natal, Northern Cape, and Gauteng enrolled this year in the wine service training program. Will provide ready skills for the wine industry upon graduation. We invite industry to join national efforts such as the President's YES or Youth Employment Service Initiative by absorbing these graduates. In terms of the food safety assurance industry, we also support our food safety assurance program, which trains unemployed graduates in food handling. In the last financial year, 489 learners completed this program. And in 2018-19, we'll enroll another 1,500 learners. Honorable Chairperson and Ministers, I would like to highlight some of the positive outcomes from our youth training programs, especially the chefs and the food safety training programs. The Cecilia Makiwane Hospital in Mdantsane, Eastern Cape, is a case in point. The hospital has absorbed 30 graduates comprising of 20 chefs and 10 food safety officers from this program. And the feedback received yesterday from Ms. Linda Vacha, one of the managers at the hospital, is as follows. 1, the placement of the NDT trained graduates has improved and professionalized our kitchen. 2, the youngsters have the right skills, qualification, and attitude. They are very strict and do not compromise on quality. 3, the food quality has improved and patients are served according to customized diet sheets in line with the doctor's orders. 4, food waste has been reduced by 52%, and this has resulted in huge savings. The hospital has had no budget challenges and been able to assist other hospitals with food stock loans. 5, the kitchen has become our pride and joy. Overall, the department has facilitated the placement of 600 youth who have been trained in different disciplines in the hospitality industry internationally. And they come back, then in the country, some get permanent jobs. In terms of the tourism blue flag beaches, we have enrolled 300 unemployed youth as beach steward in our 50 blue flag beaches across KwaZulu-Natal, Cape Town, Eastern Cape, and we'll enroll even more, add more 25 beaches to the program this year. National Tourism Careers Expo last year saw us in Bloemfontein, and we attracted about 7,300 learners, and they learned about careers in tourism and the hospitality industry. And for the 3 years, we'll be co-hosting this with the Northwest Province and expose even more youth to take careers and opportunities that exist in the tourism and hospitality industry. With regards to the women, looking at the training in the sector, we've managed to train about 60 of them now, 20 last year and 40 this year, on the executive training management courses, and some of them, I'm happy to say 5 of those that graduated have already been promoted to higher positions. And we're continuing with engaging women in the sector and making sure that they can be part of this transformation we're on. But last year in November also, we held lots of exhibitions, entrepreneurial conferences, etc., and all those. But in coming then to the issues of domestic tourism, we have completed the review of the strategies we had from the minister and provided that some critical insights regarding growing and resilient domestic tourism market, and are committed to building a future of tourism in South Africa. And last year we undertook social tourism youth activations in celebration of O.R. Tambo's centenary by hosting 195 learners from Bizana in the Eastern Cape and 190 from Ekurhuleni in Gauteng. And for this year's Mandela Centenary, together with our partner, South African Tourism and the Nelson Mandela Children Funds, will host provincial youth dealership conferences and expose youth to various Madiba-related attractions. In some of this exchange program, for the first time, these young people, it was for their first time to be in a flight, Minister. It was the first time to sleep at a hotel or at a lodge. They've never experienced that. Indeed, we are promoting I do tourism, we do tourism. Because young people are future ambassadors of tourism, but they are also part and parcel of the value chain as explained. And I think one key issue that is a highlight to us, this year we attended the Global Summit of Women in Australia, and in some of that there is a session of the Ministerial Roundtable. Within that we presented amongst more than 20 countries present of ministers and deputy ministers. And it is attended by 1,200 this year of women all around, from government, private sector, as well as civil society, meet for 3 full days, coming up with solutions of the world to make sure that we can look at questions of women and others. So we won $5,000 with this, with our chefs program. I think we are doing well as the department. We do tourism.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Minister Tawete. Tourism. Honorable Tawet, the last time Honorable Minister Cele, when presenting his policy debate, he was accompanied by a girl child, and he introduced her to this house as a shadow minister of police. Now, I just wanted to check whether if she's the shadow deputy minister for tourism. She is for today. Okay. You are heartily welcome, Shadow Deputy Minister. Okay. Thank you very much, Honorable Matebula. Can you continue?
Nakensa Chairperson. The EFF reject both the budget of the Department of Labor and the Department of Tourism. Colonialism and apartheid in South Africa were built on and maintained through land dispossession and the exploitation of cheap black labor. It was the need for labor which so many of the laws which entrench land dispossession passed. As without land, as with the requirement to pay taxes, our people were forced off the land and became laborers in the mines, factories, and farms of white South Africans. The recent labor bills in Parliament will only continue this cycle of exploitation. While in the principle we agree in the idea of a minimum wage, the minimum wage the ANC wants to implement is a Trojan horse for legislation which will further exploit our people. 20 rand an hour is a slave wage, while the regulation around strikes, picketing, conciliation, and arbitration, and reactionary and anti-workers and anti-poor only serve the interest of capital and the need of higher profits. And the entire process of how these bills were drafted was incorrect. The very fact that SAFTU was excluded undermined the whole processes. But also the idea that such an important policy that will affect the lives of millions of workers can be agreed upon by a group of elites in neglect and some panel appointment by one person who has demonstrated beyond doubt that he will at all times protect the interests of big businesses before workers, before poor people, women, children, people with disability, is one we must completely reject. If it was not for the EFF letter to the chairperson of the Labour Committee, the process was going to be rushed with no oral presentation and also not enough time for the committee to consider all inputs. But what is more concerning is the conduct of the minister and the departments. Not only has the minister ignored the input of the committees, but she went even further, even undermined the neglect agreement, therefore undermining the international minimum wage legislation. The legislation is nothing but an extension of the EPWP that will trap workers in low wages for the rest of their working life, while companies and bosses live lavish out of profits. But this anti-work attitude of the ANC is not new, and is why they continue to allow labor brokers to operate through the country and outsource the service they provide. It is why we have continuously called for insourcing of workers in government, universities, state-owned companies, and in the private sector. It is for this reason why we'll be introducing two very important private member bills. We are going to introduce a private member bill to ban all labor brokers, to restore workers' dignity, to advance the struggle for better working conditions and a living wage. We are going to introduce a private member bill to ensure that no person works for government through a third party, and all workers who are employed of full-time basis with pension and medical aid, since the public health care has completely collapsed. This bill that we are going to introduce will go a long way in ending the exploitation of workers in this country, while also restoring their dignity. Workers like those in the tourism industry. The tourism industry is one of the most exploitative industries in South Africa. In all our provinces, but particularly our coastal provinces, the tourist industry makes billions of rands each year, but who does it benefit? It largely benefits white capital who exploit the labor of blacks, both South African and foreign. In the tourism industry, workers casualize, not paid minimum wage, not paid overtime, and can be fired on spot. You have bosses who take tips from their workers in restaurants. You have bosses that make workers work on Christmas while paying them 11 rand an hour, and you have bosses who dismiss workers simply because profits are slightly down, not considering that these workers have families to take care of. Up until today, neither the Department of Tourism or the Department of Labor have done anything to address this continued exploitation, and have allowed the tourism industry to go largely and unregulated with little or no consequences for the violation of labor laws. But this forms part of the broader failure of the Department of Tourism and lack of transformation in the industry. We have repeatedly argued here over the years that to comprehensively transform the tourism industry and unlock its growth potential, we must also directly deal with the question of land ownership and the question of ownership of the places of accommodation. People come here to see our wildlife, or our majestic oceans, and our rare plant species in the succulent Karoo and in the Cape Floristic region. Who owns the land with all the flowers in Namakwaland? And how is that of benefiting of the majority of unemployment and the landless in Namakwaland? Most private nature and game reserves are in the hands of a tiny minority of white people. Most of the hotels and B&B are owned by tiny minority of white people who then employ underpaid and abuse their black workers. Minister, here calls that a progress. The entire tourism value chain must therefore be changed. We must put off our people first, not only as employees, but as the active participant and primary benefit of tourism. We reject this budget. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Honorable Fava, can you continue the debate?
Working. Honourable Chairperson, welcome back, Minister Hanekom. Minister Gigaba's catastrophic visa and unabridged birth certificate regulations unfortunately still remains like a rope around your neck. These ridiculous regulations have cost our country almost 8 billion in tourism revenue, with the amount of tourists decreasing by more than 500,000 tourists in the previous financial year. We hope you can say that right. In the fourth Parliament, I served on the Select Committee of Home Affairs, where I interacted with Minister Gigaba. Subsequent to a study tour to Dubai with the ICT focus group, where we observed how some countries use electronic visas and the biometric system technology. This was 2010. The new SA ID card and idea for paperless Parliament was also born at this time. I requested Minister Gigaba to introduce this technology in my Home Affairs budget vote debate during those times. Instead, Minister Gigaba continued to rather promote the unrealistic and insensitive unabridged birth certificate regulations, which he based on a factual and statistic incorrect newspaper report, as you know yourself, with regards to the abduction of children. But we read newspapers, we sometimes believe it ourselves. We are glad to see that although many years later, Minister Gigaba received a wake-up call and introduced the biometric system, as well as finally a pilot electronic visa project for some efficient travel. It was implemented earlier. If it was implemented earlier, Minister, tourism would have received a much-needed boost. Nou, Minister Hanekom, ek stel voor dat u druk op Minister Gigaba begin plaas. Aangesien ons land in die huidige ekonomiese omstandighede dringend 'n finansiële inspuiting kort en toerisme werkskepping 'n hupstoot kan gee. Nou meer as ooit is dit nodig dat hy die geboortesertifikaatregulasies verslap, van meer gevorderde elektroniese sisteme gebruik maak en e-visas so gou as moontlik begin implementeer. Veiligheid en sekuriteit is natuurlik een van die mees belangrike aspekte vir toeriste wanneer vakansie en toere beplan word. Toeriste wil veilig voel wanneer hulle in 'n vreemde land vakansie hou, minister. Ongelukkig is die gewelddadige betogings, gewapende rooftogte met geweldsvoorvalle wat tans in Suid-Afrika plaasvind, oral deur die wêreld op TV-kanale te sien. Die publisiteit plaas definitief 'n demper op enige toerist wat dit moontlik oorweeg om na Suid-Afrika te reis. Geen persoon sal homself, sy gesin, vriende of familie blootstel aan sulke omstandighede nie. Buitelandse toeriste word deesdae ook deur syndikaate geteiken, aangesien die tipe toerist terugkeer na hul eie land na die misdaadvoorvalle plaasvind en dis nie duisende kilometers sal terugkom om te getuig in 'n saak nie. Die kriminele kom dan skotvry daarvan af en teiken dan net weer die volgende buitelandse toerist in sy vizier. Ons regstelsel sal moet aandag gee na 'n spoedige stelsel om sulke oortreders aan die pen te laat ry. Somtyds word die skurke eers lank na die geroofde toerist terug in sy eie land is gevang. En sonder die toerist as 'n getuie in die hof kan die beskuldigde nie verhoor word nie en hy word dus weer eens vrygestel. Ons howe sal dus na moontlike alternatiewe metodes moet begin kyk, dat die verdagtes nie keer op keer vrygelaat word nie, maar moontlik van lewendige videoverbindings gebruik kan maak vir uitkennings en skuldigbevindings. Ons Suid-Afrikaanse polisiediens moet ook baie meer sigbaar wees en in gebiede ontplooi word waar baie toeriste gereeld tyd spandeer om hul veiligheid te kan verseker. Die gesamentlike poging van u departement, die Departement van Binnelandse Sake, Suid-Afrikaanse polisiedienste en die Departement van Justisie kan dus deur goeie samewerking die gety laat draai en weer toerisme sy regmatige plek laat inneem in ons ekonomie. Binnelandse toerisme bly ongelukkig 'n groot tamaletjie en kom net nie lekker van die grond af nie. Die huidige buitensporige brandstofprys maak dit dan nou nog moeiliker vir mense om hulle te oortuig om binne in Suid-Afrika te toer en ons eie land te verken. A DA government will ensure the safety of tourists in order to increase international tourist figures. This will increase more jobs for local people. We will also use the newest technologies that I spoke about to then ease the movement of visitors to our country without the current Home Affairs difficulties on visas. We believe that we can create more jobs in the tourism industry as proved by the Western Cape Province Department of Tourism at this stage. En laastens, minister, wens ek u en u departement alle sterkte toe om deur toerisme werkskepping in Suid-Afrika te laat plaasvind waar ons mense sonder werk sit en dit so dringend nodig het. Ek dank u.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Honourable Mteto.
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Minister Oliphant, Minister Anekom, Deputy Minister Tabete, Honorable Zikalala, Honorable members, special delegates, ladies and gentlemen. This year marks the centenary of the father of our nation, Dr. Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela, and as a joint year-long celebration with one of the greatest daughters of the African soul, Mama Albertina Sisulu, a heroine who spent her life fighting for the emancipation of women and liberation of South Africa. The initiative, What's Your 100 Madiba's Experiences, is promoting travel and tourism through Mandela's legacy. This will enhance the already existing Mandela-inspired attractions initiative launched in the past financial year. This initiative will assist with entrenching the culture of travel among South Africans in all 100 sites across the country. This site will become a must-visit in the travel itineraries, not only for South Africans, but for international tourists as well. The ANC 53rd National Conference resolved that over the next 5 years, the ANC will take decisive and resolute action to overcome the triple challenges of poverty, inequality, and unemployment, which are at the heart of South Africa's socio-economic challenges. As such, tourism forms part of the 4 priority areas that have been identified and advanced by the ANC as a key driver to sustainable and equitable job creation. This focus on jobs is in line with the ANC commemoration of Nelson Mandela and advancing renewal, unity, and jobs. In its journey of creating and sustainable more jobs, the African National Congress called on the Department and South African tourism to enhance and intensify their intervention on growing domestic tourism and making it accessible and affordable to all South Africans. The ANC-led government is cognizant of the paramount role of domestic tourism for both addressing the socio-economic imperatives of the country and makes good business sense to trade, as it provides critical support to tourism operators in several areas of industry performance. As noted by the President Cyril Ramaphosa in his State of the Nation address, the tourism industry has created and sustainable over 700,000 jobs in our country. We engage in this debate equally informed by the restructuring that has taken place both in the department and South African tourism, so as to address the emerging trends in the sector and to promote the further growth and development of the sector. In this regard, thriving domestic tourism will help South Africa to grow and be competitive and address, among other things, the following three important aspects: seasonality with the potential to generate visitor spending during off-peak week season months, thus supporting gainful employment in the sector. 2, achieving a geographic spread, domestic tourism visit the remote areas neglected by the inbound tour operators, supporting rural and township tourism establishment through the enjoyment of local products. 4, increased domestic spend, well-developed and affordable domestic tourism offerings can motivate the people of Mzansi to take short-lived holidays and do tourism in their neighborhood. New concepts such as stay caution can be promoted to ensure that South Africans truly buy into we do tourism a campaign. In so doing, there will be an increase in domestic trips, which will lead to more domestic spend. This will culminate in the transformation of sector and job creation. Come to the challenges that we face within the tourism sector, while the department continues to aggressively drive and invest in marketing awareness campaign on domestic tourism through short-lived campaigns, they rely on the travel agencies and tour operators to execute on conversion of potential South African to domestic tourist. The challenge is that the travel agency and tour operators continue to focus on international tourists, which are more commercially attractive segment, which bring them a higher margin in the bottom line, and domestic tourism is neglected. The most concerning emerging trend in South Africa is that domestic tourism is becoming an activity of the elite and only affordable by the affluent, the rich, and middle strata. In 2017, domestic holiday trips amounted to 17.1 million trips. This was a decrease of 29% from 2016 and was driven by the 41% decrease in visiting friends and relatives trips. However, despite the decline in domestic holiday trips, there was an increase of 16% in average spend per domestic tourist per day. This means that there are fewer South Africans embarking on domestic tourism, but spending more. What can be inferred from this trend is that the fewer people who are traveling are the rich citizens who can afford the current domestic trips holiday packages. This perpetuates the structural imbalances of the past, where only the privileged section of the society could afford traveling. The previous privileged citizens have been joined by the fewer from the black middle class. What is concerning is that the culture of travel has not improved among South Africans. The African National Congress, in cognizance of the economic situation in the country, but the lack of travel among South Africans cannot only be ascribed to affordability. The main challenge is that there has been no major structural changes in our operators and travel agency who package domestic tourism. The current private sector is more inclined to international tourism, which yield them more profit. Deepening domestic tourism can be used as a powerful tool for nation building and social cohesion in South Africa. The ANC would like to see more being done in transforming the tourism industry in our country. Small, medium, and micro enterprise development strategies should be catalyzed and implemented by the National Department of Tourism and South African Tourism. The gap in the travel agency and tour operator space should be addressed. The department should also assist emerging tour operators and travel agencies to plug into the domestic tourism space for planning domestic packages and itineraries. Furthermore, progressive and creative initiatives should be explored in order to make domestic tourism more accessible and affordable for all our people. The department is commended for a number of skills development programs it is implemented in the 2018-2019 financial year, including the Women Executive Program targeting women in management position in the private sector. Transformation is another real and daunting challenge for the sector. The tourism BBBEE sector code have not yet yielded the design results. This possesses a threat to the sustainability of the industry and the vast opportunity of economic activities and inclusion. The enabled environment should also eliminate the administrative challenges that exclude most SMMEs for accessing government support and financial boost from the financial institution.
Can you take your seat? On what point are you rising, Honourable Member?
Chairperson, ke kopa gore o mpoletse sebui mo podiumeng gore a se tla tsaya potso.
Can I listen to Honourable Kone? What were you saying?
Ke ne ke re ke kopa gore o mpoletse sebui mo podiumeng gore a se tla tsaya potso.
Honourable Mthetho, are you prepared to take a question? No, he's not prepared to take a question.
Okay, Chair.
No, he's not prepared to take a question. Take your seat.
We encourage the Minister, the Department of Tourism and SA Tourism to continue to provide the leadership to the sector. This requires an improvement and political will to eliminate all the barriers and policy uncertainties that could stiff tourism growth in the country. We also call upon the private sector to partner with government in driving the tourism development and economic contributions of the sector. In 2014, the ANC National Election Manifesto has called for the introduction of a contributory social security system to provide for guarantees retirement, disability, and survivors benefit while streamlining the road accident, occupational injuries, and the unemployment benefits. Last year, the department has registered an increase in the number of companies that were subjected to a review for a non-compliance during this period. This is despite the JSE claiming and insisting in the media that their listed companies were all compliant, and it was discovered that 74 of their listed entities that were reviewed were found to be non-compliant. There are some improvement in the compensation fund administration. However, there still a lot of work to be done. The recent revised organizational structure of the fund holds the promise to deal with remaining challenges. The claims environment, which was the major source of complaints of many years, is showing huge improvement. The fund has completely wiped out the backlog in claims, which is indeed a major breakthrough. The fund is modernizing its service delivery infrastructure, and this has already significantly reduced claim turnaround times. About 88% of the claim are today finalized in 21 days, in far cry from what it used to be in the past. The fund has made a commitment that it would have resolved all the current bottlenecks in the claims environment by 2019. The introduction of national minimum wage by the government of the ANC is aimed at increasing the earning of the most vulnerable workers and will at the same time reduce the staggering inequality in our country and restore workers' rights. Once implemented, the national minimum wage, 18 rand an hour for farm workers and 15 rand an hour for domestic workers, will be phased in for these two categories of workers. The reason for this, for a phase,
Honorable Mteto, time is expired.
Thank you, Chairperson. The ANC support these two both budgets.
Honorable Councillor Bosman, can you continue with the debate? Honorable Connie, please, can you be in order?
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Minister of Tourism, Honorable Minister of Labour, Honorable members and ladies and gentlemen. Chairperson, may I take this opportunity to congratulate Honorable Derek Hanekom on his reappointment as Minister of Tourism. As local government, we welcome you back. I wish to take this opportunity on behalf of all municipalities and the leadership of SALGA to wish you well and to wish you all the best. And in the same token, we'd like to commit our organization and our municipalities to working with the ministry going forward. Honorable Chairperson, as the Minister affirmed in his budget speech, tourism is now the fastest growing industry with over 1.3 billion people traveling internationally every year. As SALGA, we are also pleased that tourism has maintained a strategic importance within our economy, as outpaced other sectors and contributing about 9% to our gross domestic product growth. We are also pleased that it has so far created 1.6 million employment opportunities, thereby giving much needed economic relief to all of our people, especially in our municipalities. As a sphere of government that is the closest to the people, we recognize the strategic role that tourism plays in sustainably providing for our municipalities throughout the length and breadth of our country. We also recognize that tourism plays an important role in underpinning the livelihoods of many people in our municipalities and remains a key sector where the enterprising spirits of our people can be absorbed, especially those who were historically excluded from participating in the economy. We commend the Minister's support for the brand ambassadorial function that South African tourism plays, and we wish to re-emphasize that many tourists are seeking the undiscovered gems which our small and hidden away towns eagerly look to partner with you and your department and the private sector to unleash and indeed unlock our economic potential in our municipalities. While we concede it is important to brand, market, and refine South Africa's existing tourism products, we believe it is also important to reinvent or develop new destinations and innovative products. Maintaining competitiveness locally is key to keeping Brand South Africa alive and well into the future. We are convinced that the revised National Tourism Sector Strategy that was approved by the Cabinet last year is a step in the right direction towards promoting competitiveness in the industry. We are excited that, as you state in your speech, the revised strategy provides a coherent policy framework that helps our country focus on all the necessary elements to achieve inclusive growth in the tourism sector. We support the pillars outlined in your budget speech, especially those that pertain to investment in infrastructure, transforming the industry and accelerating empowerment for all South Africans, especially previously disadvantaged South Africans. As SALGA, we would like to work with you to ensure that all South Africans across the country are able to benefit from the funding opportunity you announced in your budget speech, and we believe that sustained growth of the sector will contribute enormously to the realization of this vision. Honourable Chairperson, as mentioned earlier, competitiveness in this sector and in the national economy can indeed be achieved by promoting inclusion. In this regard, we are particularly encouraged by the Minister's emphasis that good planning and cooperation between the three spheres of government and the private sector are essential to destination development on a significant scale. Destination South Africa is the sum of many different products and services, and supported by good infrastructure, it will all come together to make for a seamless and memorable tourism experience. We hope that as part of your plans going forward, your ministry will continue to support the grading costs of establishments associated with the grading councils that promote inclusion, and that you will continue to support our communities and community tourism projects, thereby improving management and business skills, especially in small and medium enterprises. Honourable Minister, SALGA remains an ardent supporter of the role that tourism plays as an economic driver and where it impacts on the lives of all South Africa. Accordingly, our local municipalities receive and play host to an essential service that is being delivered to all tourists and South Africans alike. These services include roads, the provision of water, electricity, and services that protect our tourist assets, not just in our wildlife parks, but also along our beautiful coastal regions. We hope that through your leadership, we'll be able to bring under one roof the departments of agriculture, rural development, land reform, and those in the economic cluster to work towards a more coherent approach to promote coastal heritage and agricultural tourism. As SALGA, on behalf of all our members, we look forward to working with the ministry and the department towards creating and growing a competitive, inclusive sector supported by the role that local government can play. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bosman. Honourable Lashafa, continue the debate.
Honourable Chairperson, Honourable Ministers, Honourable Members of the NCOP, ladies and gentlemen. Tourism is vital for South Africa not only because it brings its billions of rands into the national GDP, but because it presents previously disadvantaged and unskilled South Africans with stable and prosperous employment. In a country with a high unemployment rate and a large unskilled population, tourism presents many South Africans with a lifeline out of poverty. Approximately 700,000 South Africans are employed in tourism, and 1 in 22 employed citizens are working in this sector. These statistics are a clear indication of the changing nature of South Africa's economy. Tourism also presents immense potential for budding entrepreneurs, spurring on economic activity which grows our economy in turn. And with such bountiful natural beauty, well-developed transport infrastructure, and a competitively priced lodging and tourist attraction, South Africa really is a country built for tourism. With this in mind, our country must do everything possible to allow the tourism industry to flourish if this sector is so beneficial for our people and our economy. What sets the tourism sector apart as a job-creating industry in South Africa is the fact that it is easily accessible to the majority of women for economic exploitation. From running catering businesses to B&Bs and hostels to guided tours, South African women are beginning to realize the endless potential that tourism sector can bring. tourism is arguably the easiest and most profitable sector for female entrepreneurs, as it allows women to make a business out of the skills they already possess. In fact, we need women in tourism for this very reason, Minister, so we welcome your comments made today on the opportunities for women in tourism, because they are they showcase a side of our country that men very often neglect. Our stories, our humanity, and many of the South African struggles are far easily able to be expressed. The Western Cape has long been aware of the benefits of tourism industry for its people, and this is why tourism has been singled out as a key industry deserving of immense investment and development in our province. Through the Western Cape's Project Colisa, tourism has been prioritized as a strategic sector able to create the much-needed employment for the people of the Western Cape. And as a result of this approach, launched back in 2015, tourism has become a burgeoning industry and big business for our province. Between the fourth quarter of 2016 and the fourth quarter of 2017, tourism in the Western Cape grew by 7.5%, bringing in 6.6 billion rand into the provincial economy and creating 26,758 jobs since 2013. In the tourism industry alone, the Western Cape has managed to make noticeable strides in eradicating unemployment and creating prosperity for all of our people. The Cape Town Air Access Strategy has also focused on linking Cape Town with a number of key tourism markets via Cape Town International Airport. Since its inception in 2015, Cape Town Air Access has brought in 750,000 more seats to Cape Town, increasing the growth of international terminal passengers by 20%. And that is 13 extra new flights into Cape Town Airport, which are direct flights. This year alone, an additional 150,000 more inbound flight seats will be secured for Cape Town, further securing the Western Cape's title as one of the most visited destinations on the African continent. Honourable Chairperson, Western Cape tourism has also created a fertile environment for entrepreneurship and innovation. If we look at the disruption in the tourism sector, certain companies have seen immense growth in Cape Town and the Western Cape. Airbnb has grown by 86% in the Western Cape in 2017 alone, while recording a whopping 110% growth in rural destinations outside of Cape Town. This has brought a combined 5 billion into the province just last year. According to Airbnb, the city of Cape Town alone accounts for 25% of the company's revenue on the entire African continent. These figures point towards big business for our province and the bountiful rewards that the Western Cape government is reaping from investing in an industry ready to thrust South Africa into a competitive international tourism network. The knock-on effect is economic capability. The knock-on effect is the economic capability the sector gives to unskilled South Africans. Residents living in Khayelitsha have opened up their homes to Airbnb guests, using spare rooms as a form of necessary income. These exchanges leave a lasting impression on foreign visitors who get a genuine and unique South African experience of Cape Town, sampling street food and spending their money on handmade trinkets and souvenirs. Economic opportunity trickles down into rural areas and informal settlements become because of the tourism industry, and Cape Town has created a platform of potential for many in our poorer communities. Tourism creates a means to uplift and develop most of our marginalized communities, and innovation in the industry such as Airbnb provides, and really is an easy means to contribute to this industry and ensure stable income for millions of South Africans. And with this in mind, Chairperson, national government must ensure that tourism can grow unhindered in South Africa by removing any unnecessary red tape which may block or slow its development. This is where the National Department of Tourism and the National Department of Home Affairs have worryingly different approaches to tourism potential. As you know, Minister Hankom, the enforcement of unabridged birth certificates for travelling minors, a severely underdeveloped visa application system, just in its infant stages at the moment in key tourism markets, particularly such as India and China, and severe shortages in Home Affairs staff at passport control have severely hindered tourism's development in this country. Honourable Chairperson, the Airports Company of South Africa, along with the Department of Home Affairs, appeared before my standing committee just last week. And while international arrivals have grown by 20% at Cape Town International Airport, the number of Home Affairs immigration officers available for duty at passport counters has decreased from 82 to 68 over the past 4 years. The resulting bottleneck delays passengers and cripples airport activity. Cape Town International Airport informed me that 25 million is lost in revenue from the airport's duty-free shopping experience as international passengers are held up in queues at passport control. And please understand that those are vital jobs that of people that are employed from this province at the airport. Home Affairs only opens 5 counters out of 18 to process on average 35,000 passengers a day. Why has Home Affairs not realized the tremendous impact that this has on our tourism industry? It is quite evident that the Western Cape's tourism industry has surpassed the predictions of national government, but we are still waiting for the Department of Home Affairs to catch up. The simple task of allowing international visitors through our borders is complicated by an inefficient and ineffective department. And this must be addressed as a matter of urgency. And I really ask Minister Hanekom whether you have any feedback on when we will finally discard some of that draconian style of management of our international visitors. Home Affairs must fast-track the implementation of e-visas for visitors to South Africa, and I'm aware that the department is testing this system on a trial basis, but these systems should have been implemented years ago. And we see that tourist hotspots such as Turkey and Thailand have had a very effective e-visa system for a number of years, and yet South Africa still lags behind. China has just been ranked the world's largest tourism market, with the largest number of international visitors now being Chinese. How are we facilitating tourism from China when biometric visas for Chinese travelers can only be obtained in 2 Chinese cities? This legislation is preventing an immense amount of foreign direct investment into our country through tourism. The ineffective tourism visa system, please, Minister, must be addressed without more delay. Honourable Chairperson, if tourism is a convenient means to creating sustainable economic growth and employment for our country, then don't you think we should really be investing heavily in this industry? We should also ensure that each and every mechanism facilitating the ease of travellers crossing our borders are put in place. We cannot afford to miss out on this burgeoning international industry due to an inefficient government or any outdated legislation. Tourism must be prioritized as a matter of urgency, as the well-being of South Africa depends on it. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Mrs. Zigalala, KZN, Economic and Development Affairs.
Thank you, Chairperson, the Minister of Labour, Honourable Oliphant, the Minister of Tourism, Honourable Hanekom, and the Deputy Minister of Tourism, Honourable Tabete. On behalf of the province of KwaZulu-Natal, we value the opportunity to make contributions to this crucial debate ensuing in this plenary. While our contribution will largely focus on tourism, it will be remiss of me not to applaud the work of the Department of Labour for its work, which does not only protect workers' rights, but also intervene in uplifting their conditions. The introduction of a minimum wage is a good start to protect those who are at the lowest level in the labour sector. The decisive interventions of the minister in protecting the vulnerable farm workers is a reflection of the ANC's commitment in protecting the poor. It resonates with the words of former President Nelson Mandela, who once said, and I quote, "Never, never, and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by another and suffer indignity of being the skulk of the world, close quote. Honorable Chairperson, it is by now a widely accepted fact that tourism is a highly resilient sector in the economy, not only of South Africa, but the world. This fact came to the fore in the aftermath of the 2008 global economic meltdown, when tourism continued to register growth globally, while other sectors of the economy floundered. We therefore, in this regard, agree with Honorable Minister Hanekom that all spheres of government must work together to ensure that we grow the country's tourism sector and ensure that it remains competitive. As the ANC government, we understand that it is our responsibility to strike the balance between and among the imperatives, which at times may seem to be opposite. Therefore, we commend the work done by the National Department of Tourism and the Department of Home Affairs toward fine-tuning the visa issue, which has a huge impact on the attractiveness of South Africa as a tourist destination. Indeed, we must make visiting our country to be easy and painful, while at the same time ensuring the safety and integrity of our country and her people. As KwaZulu-Natal government, it is our intention to grow the continent's premier travel and tourism show, the Africa's Travel Indaba, into a world-class platform where strategic tourism players meet and where sharp tourism business is done. We're grateful to the Department of Tourism for awarding us the opportunity and the right to host this important travel and tourism platform in the city of Durban for another next 5 years. It is our humble view that our province should be given the permanent seat of this show so that we as the province, working together with other spheres of government, can make necessary long-term investment toward this show. We subscribe to the notion that tourism is community-based, private sector-driven, and government-led. What this means is that these social partners need to work together in order to ensure a thriving tourism sector. To this end, we need the private sector to come on board in a much more deliberate and meaningful way. The transformation of this sector should not be an accident of history or a by-the-way phenomenon, but the central thrust of a national drive to address unemployment, inequality, and poverty. Chairperson, as KwaZulu-Natal, we have invested a total amount of 1.7 million towards skills enhancement program, which covers social tourism initiative, providing capacity building for more than 200 previously marginalized individuals. Rural tourism is quite important to us given the rural nature of our province. To this end, we have invested an amount of 20 million toward the enhancement of rural tourism. This funding will cover the refurbishment and the construction of new chalets at Ndumo Lodge, which belongs to Matenjwa community. We'll also refurbish the interpretation center, the accommodation precinct, and the community conservation area at Igodini Border Caves, which belongs to Mngomezulu communities under Umkhanyakude district. We will also refurbish Tokazi Royal Lodge, which is under Zululand. Beside being the beside for its strategic location, Igodini Border Caves are part of our heritage, as number of MK combatants use these caves as their hideout during the fight for liberation. And there were also a number of confrontations between Umkhonto weSizwe combatants and soldiers of the apartheid regime. Honorable Chairperson, contrary to the negative narrative advanced by those who fear the process of land redistribution, we are also happy to inform this House that we have further invested more than 1 million toward diversification of provincial tourism products and supply of rural-based tourism, including farms which have been restituted back to their owners. This project will include upgrading of Kopi Guest House and Mkuze Falls Game Reserves and a lodge at Upongolo local municipality. We are also pleased by the support that the National Department of Tourism is giving to the province. Utilizing the framework of intergovernmental relations, we joined the National Department of Tourism to launch tourism safety monitors. A total of 250 young people will be enrolled into this program, which will run for a year with a prospect of an extension by another 2 years. These tourism safety monitors will be responsible for ensuring safety of those who visit our beaches and offer general assistance to tourists in the province. They will also spread across all coastal municipalities, and this will be supported by an amount of 20 million. Working together with the private sector, we have packaged a number of tourism investment projects, which include a 1.5 billion Tilimena resort, which will create jobs which will be between 500 to 1,000. We have also packaged a number of community-owned projects in strategic coastal lines, and these include a 2.5 billion Nonoti resort, which is wholly owned by the community of Nonoti. It also includes the construction of the 10 billion community-owned Blethdale Coastal Resort and the 100 million community-owned Banga Neck Resort, which is also owned by the community. These are community-owned projects which will alter the land ownership and property relations in the northern coastline of KwaZulu-Natal. Honorable Chairperson, in changing the face of our tourism sector in our province, we're also supporting the establishment of an 88 million black-owned St. Lucia Hotel, as well as 120 million hotel that will be built at Kwambonambi, and these will be owned by black individuals. Asina Mona, asina Nzondo, sikhulisa umnotho, siubuyisele ebantwini. We're also pleased with the progress on the construction of a 250 million Durban cruise terminal, which will cover 6,000 square meters. There is no doubt that this will boost cruise tourism in Durban and in South Africa as a whole. This cruise terminal, as led by Transnet Port Authority, will start operating in October 2020. As some of the highlighted project shows, through radical economic transformation approach, tourism has a potential to accelerate the attainment of an inclusive economy. It is up to all of us as stakeholders in this sector to play our respective roles to leverage on the possibilities that this sector provide to fast-track economic growth and drive meaningful economic distribution. As the ANC government, we stand ready to play our part. Honorable Chairperson, I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Sigalala. Honorable Kaula, can you continue the debate?
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Ministers and Honorable Deputy Minister. Indeed, Honorable Mrs. Galala, KwaZulu-Natal has long been appealing for KwaZulu-Natal, Mr. Minister, to be given the status to permanently host the tourism indaba. I do agree with the MEC on that one. As a member of Inkatha Freedom Party, I am a proud South African who would like to see the challenges facing South Africa genuinely resolved by the government of our country. As a KZN delegate to the NCOP, I also carry with me, together with my KZN colleagues, the interests of the people of KwaZulu-Natal.
Honorable Kaula, can you take a seat? Honorable Kone, on what point are you raising?
Point of order ya ka ke gore a o lemogile gore gore mo tegantlo ga gona ope o tswang ko porofenseng ya Free State.
Honorable Kone, that's not a point of order. Can you please take your seat? Honorable Kaula, can you continue the debate?
Ga se ke etse go bua point of order.
No, Honorable Kone. If they are not here, they are not here. Honorable Kaula, can you continue the debate?
Thanks, Chair. Hence, this earnest appeal to government to say, please attend to the problems of our people. The laws of our country dictate that when job opportunities become available, the people of South Africa should be prioritized for employment. Someone from outside South Africa will only be considered for a scarce skill or job opportunity where the job market has failed to get a qualified South African. Honorable Ministers, you cannot tell South Africans that serving as a waiter or waitress in restaurants is a scarce skill, that driving metered taxis is a scarce skill, that labor jobs in the farms is a scarce skill, that driving trucks is a scarce skill. The list goes on and on. Yet these are the areas where it will be very common to find undocumented foreign nationals occupying these jobs to the detriment of South Africans. Why? Because government is weak in implementing the laws of our country. This is not to say that foreign nationals should not or cannot be employed in South Africa. But what we are saying is that these employments should happen following the prescripts of the laws of our country. So far, this is not properly happening because there is poor monitoring by government. Unemployment in South Africa has skyrocketed to reach alarming levels, but even with the little that becomes available, the government is unable to protect its citizens. These practices have caused tensions and confrontations in many parts of our country. Honorable Minister, I agree that the recently determined minimum wage is by no means a decent living wage. Whilst the IFP has welcomed the institution of a minimum wage, we have gone on to clarify that we do not believe in a blanket minimum wage for all the economic and labor sectors. The economic activities of our different economic and labor sectors do not yield the same spin-offs and the same financial benefits across the board. Therefore, we still call upon government to review the blanket minimum wage such that it becomes a staggering minimum wage that is sector-based. The danger with a blanket minimum wage is that you may be disadvantaging workers in a sector where economic spin-offs are high. You may also be subjecting the workforce to a shredding of jobs in economic sectors where spin-offs are minimal. Tourism is one of the sectors that has a great contribution to the country's economy. However, this sector is not performing to its maximum potential. The continued mishandling of visa processes by the Department of Home Affairs hinders the tourism potential of the country and must be addressed. Tourism also relies heavily upon the other industries for it to thrive. Therefore, the failure of SAA, SAA Link, and SA Express to function properly has a negative impact to our tourism potential. The poor service by some of our municipalities in the strategic delivery of services like water also impacts negatively to tourism. The failure of SAPS to effectively deal with increasing crime levels give the country a negative image. What this means is that whilst one area in governance by the ANC may be having a potential to do well, failure to perform in the other areas negatively affects the whole governance scenario. That is why then democracy has elections every 5 years. This is so that poor performance and poor service delivery can be punished in the ballot box. South Africans must use this opportunity wisely so that the country can improve for the better. Therefore, while your department may have tried its best in tourism, Honorable Minister, your other colleagues in their departments are letting your department and the country down. The area of cultural tourism has also not yet been fully explored, Honorable Minister and Honorable MEC. I heard you talking about community tourism. In KwaZulu-Natal, I once more appeal, Mr. Minister, that cultural tourism in respect of the rich Zulu culture and its historical sites be given adequate attention, promotion, and development. In Emakosini Valley outside Ulundi, it is where most of the kings of the Zulu nation lie. There is Umgungundlovu, which is the homestead of King Dingane. There is Ondini, which is the homestead of King Tsetshwayo. The area has been slowly developed into a national park, but it is not receiving adequate attention from the national government. Eshowe has the homestead of King Shaka in KwaBulawayo. You will find that Mzilikazi's later KwaBulawayo in the present-day Zimbabwe is much more popular than the original KwaBulawayo of King Shaka in KwaZulu. This is abnormal. I am sure there are many other examples of this kind of neglect by government, even in the other provinces. The king of the Zulu nation, King Goodwill Kabheka Zulu, has revived the Reed Dance Umhlanga to make it one of the most prestigious events in our calendar. The Department of Tourism has not yet utilized and promoted this event to the best it can do. I appeal to the department to come closer and invest in these activities for the benefit of our people. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kaula. Honorable Lund, can you continue the debate?
Good afternoon, Honourable Deputy Chairperson, Honourable Ministers, Deputy Minister, colleagues. I found it interesting that the
Okay, can you continue the debate, Honourable Member?
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Chair. I found it interesting that these two departments were put together because on the one hand you have a department that actually performed quite well, and on the other hand you have a department that should really hang their head in shame. But it was whoever organized it, well done, because you made sure that all the focus were not on the Department of Labour. Firstly, I do want to say that being the Minister of Labour, you are there to look after those that's already employed, but you're also, as a member of cabinet, responsible to look after the millions that's currently still unemployed. And with close to 10 million people being unemployed in this country, one of the biggest problems facing small businesses when they start up is the myriad of red tape that they need to navigate, all the labor laws that they need to navigate, and they do not necessarily have the skills, the human resource capacity to handle that. And that is affecting small businesses to actually start up and employing more people. So when we start saying, listen, let's not just look at a blanket minimum wage, let's look at the diverse country we had, the diverse industries. We're also saying, look at this industries, because you're making it very difficult for small businesses to start up and survive. And that is why we have such a high rate of small businesses not making it. I do want to say, on the other hand, we do have a department that has enormous potential for job creation. And Minister Hanekom, welcome back in your portfolio. And I also want to congratulate you and thank you as one of the few ministers who were willing to stand up at the end of this awful term we recently faced. And I sometimes wonder what it must be like for you to serve in a cabinet with colleagues that defended our former president up to the end. And you were one of the few that stood up on principle. And now you're actually sitting next to a colleague. So I sometimes wish I can be a fly on the wall. Now I'm looking at my colleagues here from KZN, and I'm thinking, Honourable Mtetwa, I don't know what's worse, the speech you read today or the one that you went on at a tirade, the other one, awful race comments. But on the other hand, I don't know where you are going to stand for the next election. So maybe just go ahead and, Honourable Kahule, we'll still form that coalition.
Honourable Lund, can I just bring to your attention that you addressed the House through me. And and avoid a situation of addressing a member directly, because the temptation would be that the member may want to respond to what you say. Continue the debate.
Honourable Chairperson, through you, I love it how you always call out some members in the House and not other members. But I mean, that's a trend that you've been doing for the past 4 years. So it's just the same we received from you in the chair.
Honourable member,
You
can
can
you
al-
continue the debate?
Honourable Minister Hanekom, we do want to thank you that the DA's campaign calling for the introduction of electronic visas is now going to be piloted. I do hope that we roll this out very quickly, because the potential for job creation, for getting money into our country is enormous. And I do also want to ask, it's quite often that we say, listen, we are rolling it out, we're testing it. I want to see hear what the deadlines are. Give us dates, give us months, so that then we can hold you and your department and the cabinet to account on that.
Honourable Lund, your time has expired. Oh, you checked it. So you are a pseudo presiding officer. Then continue with your time. Honourable Minister Oliphant, can you conclude the debate? Eh? Oh, sorry, Honourable Minister. Oh, I didn't see the other side of the speaker's list. Honourable Mtimunye, can you continue?
Thank you, Deputy Chair. Deputy Chair, with the greatest of respect, but Honorable Lond was completely unprepared, irrelevant, and out of order. The debate today is about labor and tourism and nothing else. It has got nothing to do with the politics of the ANC. Deputy Chair, the fundamental goal of the International Labour Organization is the achieving of decent and productive work for both women and men in conditions of freedom. Equity, security, and human dignity is fundamental to this particular goal. The African National Congress has pledged its commitment to the attainment of the decent work and sustainable livelihood for all workers, and has undertaken to mainstream decent work imperatives into national development strategies. It is against this background, Honourable Deputy Chair, that the ANC's most effective weapon in fighting against poverty is the creation of decent work. The ANC has always been committed to ensure that welfare and to ensure the welfare and good condition of service for workers, and it has achieved this by putting in place, among others, progressive labor legislation in line with the Constitution, key programs to create jobs. The Ready to Govern and the Reconstruction and Development Program of the ANC document serves as the blueprint on what has to be done. Significant progress has been made by the ANC government to implement some of these laws and other programs to create jobs since 1994. However, the country is still faced with the central and pressing challenge of unemployment, poverty, and inequality. The 52nd ANC conference in Polokwane emphasized its focus on economic transformation and making the creation of decent work opportunities the primary focus of the economic policies. The conference also resolved to transform the structures of production and ownership, as most of our people do not participate in the mainstream of the economy. Commitments made by the ANC to fight unemployment, poverty, and inequality through promoting equality and decent work at the workplace are also outlined in the 2014 ANC National Election Manifesto, which also called for bold and decisive steps to place the country on the path that seeks to eliminate poverty, create jobs, and sustainable livelihood for all our people. Deputy Chair, the National Development Plan advocates for active labor market policies to lift unemployment levels, especially among the youth. The ANC-led government, through the Department of Labor, is taking steps to expand the system of learnerships and to provide access to lifelong learning and further expand higher education throughput and quality. The ANC-led government is encouraging high and further education higher and further education institutions to work together and make sure that industry will be involved in a close partnership with them to better align curricula with the future human resource demands of the economy. With regard to enhancing employment opportunities, the unemployment insurance funds continue to work with the Department of Higher Education and Training, Public Works, and on the expanded public works program exit plans and the TVET colleges. In partnership with the IDC, over 29,000 jobs were created over the 16,000, and over 16,000 were saved in the last 4 years, ending 30 March 2018. This partnership is critical, Honorable Deputy Chair, for labor-intensive investment projects going forward. The Compensation Fund has partnered with the South African Association of Chartered Accountants to train learners on medical and actuarial skills, and this partnership is beginning to bear desired results. The first intake of 100 learners in 2017 commenced their studies in the different skills disciplines, and these were, among others, 20 nurses, 35 occupational therapists, and 5 actuarialists, among others. All 100 of this intake have progressed to the second level of the program. Deputy Chair, the Productive South Africa is an entity whose program includes, among others, saving companies in distress from closure, the Workplace Challenge Program, which includes, among us, the world-class or best operating practice programs aimed at supporting enterprise in the manufacturing sector to improve productivity and become competitive, and the Turnaround Solution Program providing support to enterprise facing economic distress and initiatives or schemes aimed at minimizing the detachment of employees or preventing loss of employment remain two of the PSA's flagship programs. Achieving these programs, Deputy Chair, during the 2017-2018 financial year include but are not limited to the following. About 49 companies were supported and were able to save about 4,700 jobs. Through the turnaround program, about 53 enterprise productivity forums were established in the enterprise facing economic distress to promote dialogue and productivity improvement issues and strategies. About 50 employees were trained in productivity capacitation, and 21 trained as productive champions. Through the Productive Operational Solutions Program, about 5,527 SMMEs were trained in productivity capacitation, and 1,002 employees are productivity champions. Chair, we can, on this basis, impress upon the powers that be that these programs should reach rural provinces. In this particular case, Chairperson, I think of a small industrial park called Gandastria, which is dilapidating instead of creating jobs, and also the one in Louisville in the former Gwangwane area. We think these programs must be deepened and go and reach those rural provinces. Honorable Deputy Chair, the ANC-led government has identified tourism as a strategic priority sector that has the potential to drive massive labor-intensive employment and contribution to the economic growth in South Africa. However, of cardinal importance to this is the issue of radical economic transformation. The tourism sector is given prominence in our policy documents such as the 2010 New Growth Path and the 2011 National Development Plan. On the 2030 vision, our 2030 vision recognizes tourism as one of the main drivers of employment and economic growth, and envisages the promotion of South Africa as a major tourism and business events destination. Outcome 4 on decent employment through inclusive growth, and outcome 7 on comprehensive rural development and land reform of the medium-term strategic framework makes reference to specific targets towards the realization of South African tourism vision. President Ramaphosa, in his 2018 State of the Nation address, emphasized the importance of tourism sector within our economy, and I quote, he said, "Tourism is another area which provides our country with incredible opportunities. Tourism currently sustains 700,000 jobs and is performing better than most other growth sectors. There is no reason why we can't double the size," close quotes. This is why this year of celebrating Nelson Mandela and advancing renewal unit and jobs, the ANC-led government has committed to enhance support for destination marketing in key tourism markets and take further measures to reduce regulatory barriers and develop emerging tourism business. South Africa, Deputy Chair, needs to be bold and coordinate in building sectors where our country has a comprehensive advantage. These sectors include tourism. The ANC policies have an entrenched understanding of crucial role that tourism plays and will continue to play in our economy. Minister Hanekom, speaking at the 8th meeting of the tourism ministers of the G20 countries, has committed the country to the following: encourage policies that promote full and productive employment and facilitate the progress of innovation in tourism and foster the creation of decent jobs, sustainable enterprise and entrepreneurship, in particular among women and the youth. Establish the favorable frameworks to stimulate innovation, entrepreneurship, and connect ecosystems linking startups, main companies, investors, and government along the tourism value chain. Create cooperation mechanism between educational institutions at all levels, the private sector, government, and technology partners to review educational programs and skills development policies. Enhance the importance of SMEs in tourism, heritage, cultural sectors due to their contribution to job creation, as well as their role in preserving and promoting cultural resources. Promote the use of digital technology to facilitate travel, as well as involving technology stakeholders in national tourism policies. I miss, however, Honorable Minister, in your commitments, a line talking to radical economic transformation in this particular sector.
Can you take a seat? On what point are you rising, Honorable Chabang? What no? Honorable Member, are you prepared to take a question?
I'm always prepared to take questions from Honorable Chabangu, but outside this meeting.
No, he's not prepared to take a question. Can you take a seat, Honorable Member? Continue.
Deputy Chair, as I conclude, looking forward, we hope the department will improve its communication strategy and ensure that it reaches more communities in making them aware of the paquet of progressive programs that the department has to offer. Our legislation and policy formulation, we urge the Minister to fast-track the submission of the Tourism Amendment Bill, and finally, the incorporation of the provincial and local spheres of government in the development and growth of tourism in South Africa. And more effort and focus in this area must be given. The ANC supports the budget, Honorable Chair. Deputy Chair, just trying to in response to the issues that were raised by some of our members who came to the podium. For the first time, we want to commend Honorable Magwebu. He was very progressive and revolutionary. Honorable Matebula, it is really disappointing of a Sankarist to ascend a stage and completely negate that which Sankara stood for. Sankara was actually a Marxist scholar.
Honorable Tumuye, can you take a seat? On what point are you rising, Honorable Member?
Honorable Mutimunye must refrain from provoking the EFF because he knows we'll take him on. He must refrain from doing that.
I would rather say, I would have sustained it if you had said you should not address Honorable Matebula directly. No, the first one, it's not raised. Honorable Temunye, can you address Honorable Matebula through me, please?
Sankarist and opportunist in one is really a serious problematic concoction, Honorable Chair. Sankara was a Marxist scholar, and him being a Marxist scholar believes that the state, believes that socialism is actually a process towards communism. And once communism is achieved, the state shall wither away, and the people shall run the country and the economy on their own. And therefore, it is really disappointing of a Sankarist to be so much misconstruing Sankara. I want to believe, Honorable Chair, Honorable Faba has completely run out of ideas, and he chooses to hide behind Afrikaans. And he says under the DA government, tourist numbers will be increased. tourist numbers are increasing in any case, Chairperson, year on year. We have seen that happening. What more must be done to increase tourism? And we are saying this sector, this particular sector, tourism, is one of the highest contributory factor in our economy. What more must be done? Honorable Shefa, make reference to the Western Cape as the best tourist destination. In her view, it is attributable to the work of the Western Cape government and the Western Cape government alone.
Honorable Mtunye, can you take your seat? Honorable Akwebo, on what point are you rising?
Honorable Chairperson, I'm rising on a point of order. I thought I heard you making a ruling that his time was over, but you've since allowed him to go on and on and on. You've just said that earlier.
Okay.
So I don't know what, you are giving him extra time now?
No.
On what basis?
Do you want me to rule on that? Do you want to rule on that? Your order is out of order. Your order is out of order. Can you continue with the debate, Honourable Member?
And the point of order is also pathetic, Honourable Deputy Chair, we must say.
Honourable Mtumunya, can you just take your seat? Honourable Lond, can I just understand you? Did you say order? Did you say that I'm pathetic? I am a pathetic chairperson. Honourable Lond, I feel insulted by that, and I'm ordering you to withdraw those words. Can you withdraw that, Honourable Member? If you say no to that command, can you leave this House, Honourable Member?
You are jack-legged, man. Sit down. You did not hear.
May I be recognized?
I'm still busy with that ruling. Okay, on what point of order are you rising, Honourable Member?
Chair, I'm glad you have made a ruling that the word pathetic is insulting because Honourable Mutimunya has just said now, before Honourable Lon came with that word, that my point of order was pathetic. So he's out of order, make a ruling. Yes, yes.
No.
Yes.
What whom are you arguing? I thought you were addressing me. Yes. Now, if you address me, allow me then to consider your point of order. Yes. Can you allow me to do that? Honorable Mtimunya, did you say that the members... Honorable members, order. Honorable Mtimunya. You are not going to tell me what to do. Honorable member, Honorable Mtimunya, did you, because Honorable members, order. I heard Honorable Lond saying what he said to me. Honorable Koni, can you please be in order? I asked Honorable Lond whether if he said it to me and he confirmed yes, and I ordered him to withdraw because I felt insulted, and he said it in the House that he refuses to do that. So allow me to ascertain with Honorable Mtumunye whether if he said it. Honorable members, can you allow me to preside? Can you allow me to preside? And I'm asking you for the third time. Can you allow me to preside? Honorable Mtimunye, did you say that the member is pathetic?
Honorable Deputy Chair, what I said is that the point of order is pathetic.
The point of order is pathetic. Yes. Honorable members, no, not the member is pathetic. Yes. Okay, fine. Right, honorable members, I didn't hear that part. And Honorable Mtimunye says, he said to what, his remarks were directed at what the member was saying. So on the basis of that, can you allow me, order, can you take your seat? Can you take your seat, honorable members? Honorable Mikalakis, can you take your seat? Honorable Mikalakis, can you take your seat? Honorable Chabangu, can you take your seat? Honorable Makwebu, can you take your seat? Honorable Chabangu, for the second time, can you take your seat? Honorable Mikalakis, can you take your seat? Honorable Mikalakis, can you take your seat? Can you take your seat, Honorable Mikalakis? Are you refusing to take your seat? No, I am ordering you to take your seat. I am ordering you to take your seat. Honorable members, honorable members.
Thanks for going.
Honorable members, order. I've made a ruling earlier on that I requested the honorable member to leave the house. And I want this thing to be very clear. I want this thing to be very clear. In the first place, the member directed his words at me as a person. As a person. And I asked him to ascertain whether if he directed those words at me, and he confirmed it. Now, Honorable Mtimunye says, he directed his comment to what was said. Now, on the basis of that, because I didn't pick it up absolutely, can I therefore be allowed to make a ruling in the next sitting of the House after ascertaining what Honorable Mtimunye said with Hansard? And that is my ruling, and it is final on the matter. Can you continue with the debate? Are you on the subject matter, Honorable Member? Are you on the subject? Man, Honorable Koni. Honorable Member, are you on the subject matter?
Chairperson.
Are you on the subject
yes,
matter?
Chairperson.
No, if you say yes, then I'm not going to allow because I've made a ruling. Can you continue, Honorable Member?
Thank you, Deputy Chair.
Honorable,
Deputy Chair.
Just hold, Honorable Mtimunye. Honorable Kaula, on what point are you raising?
Honorable Chairperson, I'm on a point of order, Chair. I would appeal to the Chair to also respect the House. The Chairperson cannot be saying to the member, man. The Chair must withdraw that.
No, I withdraw. Thank you very much. Can you continue, Honorable Mtimunye? Honorable Chabangu.
With due respect, Makwev, I'm on the podium. Chairperson.
Yes.
With due respect, ke ne ke batla ho bua Sesotho. Ke
Se bue
kopa
ntate.
o re kame ka kama e lekanang. Otherwise, this house will collapse. Okay. If you persistently do this. Thank you.
Okay, that's a side comment. Can you continue, Honorable Member?
Deputy Chair, in her comments, in her debate, Honorable Sefa make reference to the fact or the point that Western Cape attracts more tourists than any other provinces. But she deliberately stops short of making reasons or mentioning reasons why is that the case. And I want to challenge her in the next year's debate to make reasons known publicly why is the Western Cape among the leading provinces. Honorable Lond make reference to a contribution he wants to make to the minimum wage, Honorable Deputy Chair. I want to suggest to him that the train has left, the minimum wage has been determined, and that matter is done and dusted. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
My apologies for the first time.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chair. Deputy Chair, I want to start by saying we thank the honorable members that have supported our budget so that we can be able to continue with our work. And also I want to thank the officials from the department led by the Director General, Mr. Lamati. Chairperson, let me just inform the members based on the comment that was made by the Chairperson, Honorable Makwe, that we are having a youth expo as we speak that started on the 9th to the 15th at Nazareth. And I appeal to the members, particularly from the Gauteng province, to encourage young people from their constituencies to go to that expo so that they can receive counseling from our councillors and also to be informed about the skills that are needed by our economy. The reason why I'm saying that is that we have different departments like Science and Technology, National Youth Development Agency, Higher Education through CETAs and National Development Skills, and health as well. And there is also the participation by the Office of the Premier and the MEC for Economic Development. So that is my proposal to the members from Gauteng in particular. But I must also say on the 23rd of June, we will be visiting the area of Lusigisigi to inform the public about what we're doing, going with our sister departments, and also around July, we'll be having the outreach program for ex-mine workers in Bizana so that we can be able to find out who are those ex-mine workers who didn't get their benefit, particularly from the gold mining sector. And we have agreed with those particular companies to be part of that. Honorable members, when it comes to the issues that relates to the compensation fund that were raised by Honorable Makwebu, I must say we have even created the post after having done the skills audit in that particular entity, and 90% of those posts have been filled. And secondly, the irregular or wasteful expenditure that was indicated by the AG, we did that through the order of the court because there was a company that claimed that we have not paid them, and then the court ordered us to pay even if we didn't budget it for that particular payment, and that's why it is said it's a wasteful or irregular expenditure. And we're not going to be able to say no and defy the order of the court. Therefore, it was not the money that was stolen, but based on that it was not budgeted for. That's why it formed the wasteful or irregular expenditure. On the issues that relates to the SEE, factories in 2 provinces in particular, we are waiting for the Department of Public Works to give us buildings so that we can support those people with disabilities in Mpumalanga and Limpopo province, because they are those 2 that are remaining behind. And I also want to assure the members that when it comes to the shortage of human resources, particularly when it comes to the inspectors, the Treasury has given us some funds, because previously what was happening is that they gave us funding to employ people but without the tools of trade. And now we're going to be able to employ more. And on the issues of the enforcement in particular, yes, it's going to be done through the inspection and also together with the CCMA. But at the same time, we have decided to review Section 53 of the Employment Equity Act, that those employers who are not complying with our labor laws in this country should not do the work with the government. So that particular legislation is going to be gone to the public for public comments, because we are requesting that the President should promulgate that section so that we can be able to implement it. On the issue of the national minimum wage, honorable members, particularly the honorable members from the EFF, the SAF2 was launched in March 2018, and the agreement was reached on February 2018. And on the Ekurhuleni Declaration, the General Secretary of COSATU then, who is now the General Secretary of SAF2, I believe that he has to inform the members of SAF2 that he was part of that declaration as one of the signatories. And when you talk about the national minimum wage, you are talking about the platform that was saying no worker in South Africa should be paid under that. Yes, there are minimum wages that are attained through the collective bargaining and the sectoral minimum wages. And we have decided and agreed with both the employers and organized labor, the workers, that nobody will have a sole decision to decrease the minimum wage. If the minimum wage is more than the current proposed national minimum wage, it will stay at that particular floor.
As we conclude, Honorable Minister.
And I also want to say to Honorable Kaula, yes, there are sectors, there are minimum wage in different sectors that are reached through the collective bargaining, and the national minimum wage is across all the workers, because when you go to the hospitality industry, you'll find that the workers are paid through tips and they are not organized, and that is why we have taken that decision. Unfortunately, Honorable Lott is no longer in the House, but I believe that his colleagues will tell him when a small business is established, that particular category is exempted for 2 years. But we can't allow an open-ended exemption on small business, because that will be the exploitation of the workers in this country. And they do have a platform to apply as and when they can't afford. Thank you very much, Deputy Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Hanakom, Minister of Tourism, can you conclude the debate? I don't know, is that system working? It's not working. It's 5.
Starting now, I presume. Thank you, Chairperson. Honourable members, my dear friends, my dear comrades, ladies and gentlemen, I've been in this Parliament for 24 years. It's been an honour, but really just a little thing. When we disagree with the person speaking from the podium, we don't need to shut the person down. If you disagree, this is a place of debate. We listen to people, and I think it's very important so we respect the dignity of this House. All of us. We have differences within our parties, we have differences amongst parties, but that doesn't mean we need to be disrespectful to each other. Just having said that, thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Just listening to the many people, thank you, firstly, to the honourable members for enriching our understanding of tourism and offering some very good suggestions and making some very good comments. Essentially, we must make tourism grow. We must make it this is what comes out from you. We must make it inclusive growth, and we must create maximum number of jobs and opportunities. We must make it responsible growth, and we must look after our precious natural resources, because that's what attracts many tourists to our country, and we must look after our people in growing tourism. That's very important. So we must build on, Chairperson, on what the Honourable Schaefer calls a country built for tourism, what Honourable Markwe calls a quality and diverse tourism offering. We must build on and strengthen the partnerships referred to by both MECs Zikalala and Councillor Bosman, because in so doing we can build on this great opportunity that we have. We need the numbers, honourable members. We need to increase the numbers. Our share, as somebody pointed out, of the 1.3 billion tourists that travel around the world, our share is very small, far too small. We can increase it, we must increase it. We need to expand domestic tourism and do whatever we can to make it more attractive to people to travel in our own country, in their own countries, to see the wonderful things we have in our country, and to make it more affordable. So those are some of our collective challenges. To grow, honourable members, we need to continuously, just to repeat what I've said, continuously improve on our products, our facilities, and the experience. We have the natural beauty, as referred to by many people here. We have the cultural diversity, the cultural richness, so we have it, but it must be further developed. So in order to develop our unexploited potential, for example, the Wild Coast in the Eastern Cape, we need a proper planning process, we need infrastructure, and in so doing, we can exploit the unexploited potential of many parts of our country.
Order. Order, Honorable Connie. Just take a seat,
Okay.
Honorable Minister Hanako. Honorable Connie. Honorable Connie. Can I draw your attention now? Because I don't want to speak to caution you, and you think that one is just speaking off the cuff. May I draw your attention to Chapter 5 of the Rules of the House, insofar as speaking aloud in the House is concerned. The rule doesn't say that you cannot converse, but it says you do not have to converse aloud to a point where you interrupt even a member addressing the House. So may you refrain from doing that, Honorable Connie. May you refrain from doing that. From interrupting and speaking aloud while a member is addressing the House. Honorable Connie, I'm warning you. May you refrain from doing that. Refrain from doing that. You won't. I'm saying speaking aloud and interrupting a member whilst a member is... Honorable Connie, I'm addressing you. I am addressing you. Honorable Connie, I am addressing you. I'm not asking for a conversation with you. Honorable Connie, I am addressing you. May you please refrain from doing exactly what you're doing. Honorable Connie, I've warned you. It's okay. Honorable Minister Hanekom, can you continue with it?
Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson. So again, we need to plan so that we can develop the many, many opportunities that we have in our country. Apart from just this wonderful heritage that we have. I'm sorry.
Honorable Connie, you're out of order. Can you, Honorable Connie, Honorable Connie, Honorable Connie, Honorable Connie, you are out of order, and I'm warning you for the last time. I'll ask you to leave the house. I'll ask you to leave the house. Can you then leave the house? Because you are disruptive now. Can you leave the house? Can you please leave the house, Honorable Connie? Honorable Connie, can you leave the house? Where's the search? Can you assist me with Honorable Connie leaving the house?
I'm relaxed.
Honorable Connie, a o gana go tswa ka ntle. Ke go kopile gore o tswe ka ntle. Ke go kopile gore o tswe ka ntle. A re o gana go tswa ka ntle. Wa go kopa gape ka Setswana. Ke a go thusa, Honorable Connie. Can you continue with the conclusion, Honorable Member?
Thanks so much, Chairperson. I thought I had 5 uninterrupted minutes, but thank you. Thanks so much. If we're looking at enhancing our products, our services, and the experience, then there are things that we can do to do so. We know in the cradle of humankind, there we have the richest evidence in the world of the origins of humanity being on the African continent, but we built Morupeng. The Apartheid Museum was built. The waterfront development was developed. And so we enhanced Destination South Africa. The quality of visitor experience, honorable members, is something that we can work on all the time in our municipalities, in our provinces, to make the experience more meaningful and more proud. Robben Island is there. The history of Robben Island is there. But the guides that take you to Robben Island can make it a more profound experience. So that is our collective responsibility. We've got to make people want to come to South Africa. We've got to make it a great experience. And the many things that we do can make it just that. if we want to enhance township experience, township tourism, honorable members, one of the things that municipalities must do is to keep our cities clean and to keep our townships clean. It'll make it friendlier to tourists when they go there. One good example is Maboneng in Johannesburg. It's a great, vibey place that tourists love to go to, but it is very, very littered. It is dirty, and it doesn't create a good impression with tourists. So there are many things that we can do to make people want to visit us, to make people want to come back, and to tell others about what a great country South Africa is. We've got to market it. And it's you, the provinces, that have your own provincial marketing agencies. It's you, the municipalities, and it's you, the product owners. And of course, it's Indaba, it's SA Tourism. And I want to thank the Honorable Zikalala for what the province and the municipality have done to make Indaba a wonderful experience and a really good opportunity. So we must sell what we have to sell, and we must sell it well. And so we've got the CEO of SA Tourism over here, and he is the chief salesman of South African tourism. As we say, his name is Sisa. Sisa the Smos, we call it, the tourism Smos. Sisa the tourism salesman. So all of us, though, collectively, we must do it. So lastly, on the visas, I want to refer to ease of access is what we call it in our tourism strategy. And it is twofold. It is about visas, and it is about airlift. So I think what the Western Cape has done in the form of getting more flights to Cape Town is excellent. Similarly, in King Shaka International Airport, the direct flight from British Airways that was announced by you, MEC, I think it makes a difference. Similarly, at the OR Tambo International Airport, the partnership between the municipality, SA Tourism, and the province has really ensured that there are greater numbers of flights. We were very affected by the discontinuation of the Mumbai-Johannesburg flight. So ease of access via direct flights is very important as well. On the visas, and I will end here, Chairperson, the members here challenged me to be assertive and to say, well, firstly, I want to welcome the fact that the discussions are happening and they're constructive. And I want to welcome the fact, as one honourable member did here, that there's a movement towards modernization of the system, including e-visas. But on the regulations affecting minors traveling either with one parent or a guardian or alone, it's a challenge that we've not yet addressed. And so I want to say, and I want to stick my neck on the block, that I would like to see this challenge, because it was agreed to by Cabinet some time ago, that this challenge should be addressed by the end of July. And I hope everybody that needs to listen is listening to me, and I'm sure we get all of your support, because that will make a very big difference. Chairperson, thank you once again. Always great to be here in the NCOP. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes the debate and the business of the day. The members are requested to remain standing until the procession has left the House. The House is adjourned.